Hello to you and welcome to the 2020 Virtual Candidate Forum. This event is put on by the League of Women Voters in Vigo County and also the Vigo County Public Library. I'm Rondrell Moore and I will serve as your moderator as we learn more about the candidates in Vigo County. Now, we should note that while all of the candidates were invited, only some are showing up today. We also should note that we'll be asking them questions and we'll be going in alphabetical order as they answer them. They'll have about a minute apiece to respond to those questions. Those questions were submitted by the public today. Today's forum will feature the following offices: school board, state legislator, county clerk, county auditor, county treasurer, county recorder, county commissioner, and county council. As a reminder, the last day to vote is the last day to register to vote rather is October the 5th. Early voting begins on October 6th, and of course, election day is November the 3rd. Again, thank you so much for joining us and enjoy this virtual candidate forum. I would like to welcome you to the 2020 Candidate Forum. It is put on by the League of Women Voters and also by the Vigo County Public Library. We are so glad to have all of our candidates today here that are going to go for the Vigo County School Board. And we have multiple candidates who have several ideas and viewpoints, and this is a great chance for us to talk about those. So we're going to jump right into it, and we're going to hear from each candidate, have them introduce themselves and talk about what's important to them. We're going to be going in alphabetical order. Today, I just want to read the names of the people that we have today. We have Mr. Mel Burks, Ms. Hiawatha Garrett, Miss Mary Howard Hamilton, Stacy Killian, Mr. Paul Lockhart, Amy Lohr, Jackie Lauer, and Leah Myers. So we're so glad that all of you are here today. So Mr. Mel Burks, we will start with you today. If you could just take 2 minutes, please, to introduce yourself, your platform, and what you would like to get across. The floor is yours.
Yes, good morning to everyone. I would like to thank the Women League of Voters. I would like to thank the library for hosting this forum here. I tell you that it's very important to me that, one, I explained to you in terms of where I came from. I'm from a city called Hammond, Indiana, northern part of Indiana, and I've been here in Terre Haute since 1974. I was a football player at Indiana State University, graduated at Indiana State University in 1977, and I went on and to receive a couple of more degrees from Indiana State University. I started here at Hamilton Center Incorporated. I started at Hamilton Center as a part-time position and as a security and evening receptionist. In the evening, I started doing that job first, and after several years, I rise to the level of being a CEO of Hamilton Center. I am now the CEO of Hamilton Center, and I've been working at Hamilton Center for 41 years. And I also, in terms of been involved with several organizations, being on their boards, and I've been a person who focused on the youth of our community. I started that in the beginning, and I still do that today. And I think some of the things that is important to me, one, that we provide a pathway on how we're going to deal with providing an education to our students as we deal with this COVID-19. And I think the Chromebook was one of those perspectives that can help. But I think that we need to sit down as a community to come up with a way that is going to be beneficial for our students and our parents and our administration to come to a collaborative agreement on how we best do that. So I would like community input on that. And the other is that I think it's important that during the time of social justice or social injustice, I think that it is very important that the school corporation and our community be assured that we have someone of color on the school board of trustees. I think it's very important to the kids, particularly the African American and the people of color kids, that they see someone that looks like them, that they can have an inspiration that I can be there too. And I think that is extremely important. Two, I think it's important also for Caucasian kids to see individuals of color working in the capacity of leadership, that they too can say, hey, they do have value. So I am very focused on that. And I think that the more and more I see what's going on in the world and in our country, I think that is paramount that we do that in this community. And I've been working to that aim, doing other things within this community. So I would say to you, being the CEO have prepared me to understand the inner working of systems at every level. So I appreciate this opportunity.
All right, Mr. Brooks, thank you so much for that time. We'll be checking back in with you a little bit later. And I was just getting ready to ask you if there's a way maybe to manipulate the camera so that we could see your face just a little bit more. That would be fantastic. But we'll check back in with you in just a second. Next up, we have Ms. Hiawatha Garrett. And that's much better, Mr. Burks. And so we will give you 2 minutes again, Ms. Garrett, to introduce who you are and let everybody know.
Well, good morning. I'm happy to be here. Thank you, League of Women Voters. Thank you, Vigo County Public Library. A little about myself. I'm Terre Haute born and bred. I was a member of the greatest, most elite fraternity sorority organization in Vigo County, and I was a school teacher for over 25 years. I've worked in various capacities, from Head Start to preschools. I work primarily at the elementary level, although I did delve into the junior high, which I absolutely loved, and high school level on occasion. Why am I running for school board? As having been a member of that wonderful organization of being a teacher, I know firsthand the difficulties that the educators are going through right now with the COVID-19. It impacted me personally in that I chose to retire, took the option to retire rather than to remain there and be a risk to my health and the health of my family that just walked through the room. We need to do things to support our educators to make sure that we have the best education for our children that they could be, and to be able to have those educators to provide them with that education. If we don't have those good educators, then we are glorified babysitters rather than educating our youth, which is the future of our community. And we're dealing with the very future of our community when we're dealing with the education of our children. And say, I don't need 10 minutes, 2 minutes. I'm a teacher. We say it, we get it over with, and we go on to the next thing.
Well, thank you so much for your comments, Ms. Garrett. And hey, this is a pandemic. We're all doing this from home. So people are going to walk by. We may see some pets. We may see all sorts of fun things. But hey, this is where we are right now. So
where we are.
That's just fine. That's just fine. All right. Thank you so much. Next up is Mary Howard Hamilton. You could introduce yourself and let us know what you're standing for.
Sure, you're quite welcome. Hi, everybody. My name is Mary Howard Hamilton. I'm a professor at Indiana State University. I'm the Kaufman Distinguished Research Professor and Chair of the Department of Educational Leadership at Indiana State in the By College of Education. Really happy to be here today. I would like to also thank the Vigo County Public Library as well as the Vigo County League of Women Voters for creating this platform for us to share our opinions and views today. Who I am a resident of Terre Haute, although born and raised in Alton, Illinois, right on the Mississippi River. I attended the University of Iowa. I received my bachelor's degree in speech and dramatic arts with an emphasis in broadcasting and film. I received my master's degree at the University of Iowa in college student personnel administration and counseling, and my doctorate from North Carolina State University in higher education administration with an emphasis in guidance and counseling. I've been, again, an educator for over 40 years, primarily in post-secondary, in the post-secondary area and in colleges and universities. And as a post-secondary educator, I have been actively engaged as an academic affairs administrator, leading programs in my various departments, as well as a professor, teaching courses in higher education leadership and educational leadership. So my background and area of emphasis is in creating and promoting and developing leaders who become college presidents, provosts, superintendents of schools, principals, and other educational leaders across K-12 as well as post-secondary. My reason for wanting to become a member of the school board has to do with wanting to be actively engaged and a participant in Terre Haute and in the community. I've been observing the school board for a number of years, and also I have an opportunity to interact with a lot of folks who are in the K-12 system, mainly because of my role as an educator in the College of Ed at Indiana State. I truly believe that Vigo County and the schools have a really tremendous opportunity to enhance the infrastructure, the teaching abilities and skills of all the teachers in the system, develop great leaders in our school system. And now is the time, because with what we're experiencing now, as Hiawatha mentioned, in our pandemic, we're also experiencing opportunities for schools to receive grants and other types of support that can help us become better institutions and strengthen, of course, that infrastructure. I'm also very interested in the future with regards to developing a strong strategic plan. May need to start pivoting on some things, mainly because of the pandemic. And I'm also a very strong believer in making sure that all educators are very well versed in.
I'm sorry, I'm going to have to hop in here. They're holding up the stop sign for me right now.
Thank you.
So we'll have to check in back with you a little bit later, but thank you
That's
so much
fine.
for that introduction. We will
Okay.
talk to you very, very soon. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
All right, moving on now. We have Stacy Killian. Stacy Killian, if you could take a couple minutes, explain who you are and give yourself an introduction and all that good stuff.
Good morning. I'm sorry for my late entry.
You're fine. You're just fine. Good to see you.
Good to see you. I want to thank the League of Women Voters and the Vigo County Public Library for putting this on, and Rondrell for hosting this morning. Again, my name is Stacy Killian, and I am married to Chad. We're going on 19 years next month. We have two boys, Gabe, who is 17 and a junior attending the Vigo Virtual Success Academy this year due to his asthma and respiratory issues. And we have Graydon, who is 14, and he is attending Otter Creek as an 8th grader through the hybrid option to help maintain a lower risk of COVID-19 within the home. I have a degree in political science from ISU. I was blessed during that time after graduation to remain home and help raise my family. I graduated 6 months pregnant with my oldest. And Chad and I decided at that time we were going to put our roots down in Terre Haute and raise our family here. And I was able to do that and just be a very active mom. And then once the boys hit school age, I became very active in their school. I volunteered several hours within the Rio Grande PTO and have just continued to follow them all the way up through now Otter Creek and Terre Haute North, which being involved in the academic booster clubs, athletic booster clubs. Any way I can to get involved, I'm there. I feel like it's really important as a parent just to stay involved in their education. I've decided to run on that platform. I feel that the school board definitely needs a parent perspective right now, especially with all the day-to-day decisions being made that actively affect my family and my kids, especially with COVID-19 right now. We are living it, I'm seeing it, the successes and the struggles, and there are many on both ends with my boys with their schooling options right now, and to have that perspective that other parents are facing those struggles too, and to keep that in mind while on the school board, I feel is extremely important. I also work at Joink as a digital marketing specialist. They are a local internet provider, technology solutions company here in Terre Haute. And with that background, I bring a very unique perspective from a technology standpoint. I know Mr. Burks had mentioned earlier the Chromebooks. Great, I love that we have them. I love that we're recognizing our technology needs within the corporation, and I hope to expand upon that. And working in Joink, it shows that I'm exposed to all the new technology, latest and greatest out there. We need to grab it. We need to go with it. We need to implement that into Vigo County School Corporation. And also coming from a parent side of that, I see what my boys are using. I know the apps, you name it, the Snapchats, the filters, what they're doing, what they're using, and how best they communicate with teachers, with students, with classmates, with peers. Again, I'm living it.
Killian, I'll have to, again, I get the stop sign and
Sure.
they tell me to stop and I
Thank
gotta
you.
come on in. So I'm so sorry about this, but we just want to make sure we have a lot of candidates and you all have so much to say and so many good things to say. We just want to make sure we get to everybody, and we'll be asking questions to hopefully you'll be able to elaborate your point a little bit more. But thank you so much for your introduction. We really appreciate it. Moving on now, we have Mr. Paul Lockhart. And again, 2 minutes, if you could just introduce who you are and some of the things that are on your platform, Mr. Lockhart.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, and thank you to the League, our Vigo County Library, and our moderator. Thank you for all the work that you do in our community. My wife, Sherry, and I are proud products of the Vigo County schools, and we have one daughter and one grandson. Our schools are outstanding, and we have an excellent staff with a very supportive community. Our students have excelled in so many ways. Their awards, achievements, and test scores attest to that. I want to see this continue, but also improve in the areas that we need to. I have been involved in our schools all my life, and I do not know a better contribution that I can make to our community than to serve on the school board. It has been an honor for me to serve as one of your board members for a number of years, and I served as president several times. I just have a passion for serving and want to provide the best schools and best educational opportunities that we can for our students. There's nothing more important than our children. Kids first. My education includes a BS and MS degrees in business education and an EDS degree in school administration. As we move forward, my 35 years as a teacher and administrator in the parish schools served me well in addition to my past board experience. I've had a wide variety of experiences in schools and school administration. I'm currently a broker with Coldwell Banker Hellman. I have also served as a PTO president 2 years at Terrytown. Then I was Athletic Booster Club president 3 years at North. I also currently serve on the Terre Haute Redevelopment Commission, Casey Board, Mental Health America Board, and VCSC Building Trades Board. We are active in Noon Optimist, West Vigo Lions Club, and I am a member of the Vigo County Retired Teachers Association. Sherry and I are life members of the NAACP. I know working together as a community and with our community, we can continue moving our schools in the right direction and address the challenges ahead. I think my record shows my strong commitment to our children, staff, and community. I do thank you very much for this opportunity, and please see my Facebook page. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Lockhart. Moving right along, we have Ms. Amy Lohr. Next up, 2 minutes, if you could explain who you are and what your platform is.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, and thank you to our League of Women Voters and the library for hosting us this morning. My name is Amy Lohr. I'm running for Vigo County School Board in District 1. I am a Hoshian at heart. I graduated from North High School, went to Wabash and Chauncey Rose, graduated in '99, married a South graduate. And we both have graduated from Indiana State University. I hold 2 degrees. My husband has a teaching degree from ISU, and he teaches now at middle school at Gibault. We have 2 boys, Ender and Augustus, 12 and 3, and we're very proud to be raising them here in our hometown in the Farrington Grove area. I'm running for school board because I believe deeply in promoting financial accountability. I hear that a lot from folks. And I also believe in strong collaboration with the business community and with higher education. We don't operate in a silo. We need to be working together. And I would love to see that happen in a very intentional way. So I hope that Vigo County voters will find in me a caring and competent champion of our schools, as someone who's very grateful for the public education that I received that set me up for success. My professional experience ranges from work on Capitol Hill in the federal government and our state government in the state house, as well as the defense industry, economic development, and healthcare. My current role has me right at the center of education and workforce development policy here in Indiana and across the Midwest and nationally. I work for a group called Project Lead the Way, which is a STEM curriculum provider for pre-K through 12, as well as professional development for educators. I am Government Relations Director, which boils down to policy research and analysis and active participation in the legislative process. So I am a registered lobbyist here in Indiana. And again, all of that surrounds education and workforce development. My credentials, I hold a bachelor's degree in political science and French from Indiana State, as well as a master's in public administration, again from Indiana State, go Trees. Last year, I earned my certification from Harvard Business School online in leading with finance, and I have completed the Ball State University Economic Development Basic course, and I have a white belt in Lean Six Sigma training. But my most important qualification, I think, is that I'm a mom, and my oldest is twice exceptional, which is a category that most people are not familiar with. It indicates challenges as well as giftedness. And this has made me a fierce advocate, first and foremost, for his outcomes, but also for all student outcomes. So I have had a hard road with him, and he's thriving now, I'm glad to say. But we also have a younger child who is 3, and he'll be venturing out into preschool next year and kindergarten down the road from us. And it's very important to me that I be active in all of these things and share my expertise for this. So again, I'm very grateful for the education that I received here as kind of growing up a poor kid, and I know that my public education set me and my husband up for success, and that's something I feel fiercely about protecting and improving. Thank you.
All right, you came in right at the wire. Thank you so much for getting that through there. Thank you so much. And next, moving right along, we have Ms. Jackie Lauer.
Good morning to all, and again, thanks to the Public Library and the League of Women Voters. I am a Hoshian and very proud of it. I have been teaching in the school corporation here in Terre Haute for 35 years, and in the middle school at Otter Creek and Chauncey Rose. And then the last 20 years, I was the dean at North Vigo High School. And so education has been my choice of vocation, and I have enjoyed it. I adore working with kids and parents, and very supportive of teachers also. I have primarily 7 or 8 focal points that I have been working on. I am a member currently of this Vigo County's Board of School Trustees, and have been for the last several years, and I'm hoping that I will have the support to continue. I would say that my very first concern would be the safety of our students and staff. That's something that we constantly focus on, and in many different ways, especially with this COVID-19 that we're facing now. We've had to come up with some innovative ways to deal with that. Community involvement is extremely important to me. I always urge parents to come to our board meetings or come through any technology means to share their ideas and what their thoughts are, because I think that's extremely, extremely important. Transparency is another thing that is important to me, and I think that it's just crucial to have an understanding and support to be transparent as to what our ideas are and what we have done and what we hope to accomplish. Fiscal integrity is another thing that we work at all the time. And we have formed a committee to oversee any expenses that we deal with through the school corporation, and that's very important. Our innovative ideas, our virtual school that we have, our international school that is in its infancy but will be coming up. We have a new director of diversity, which is extremely important to us and to the community, as others have mentioned also. We have a high bar of scholastic achievement with our students in Vigo County. They do well. They do well nationally, and certainly statewide. They have won a lot of recognition and awards, and I'm so proud of the work they do and the teachers that have led them to that. Teacher support is another item that I'm very interested in supporting. I'm a member of the Vigo County Retired Teachers Association and the Indiana State Teachers Association also. And I think it's so important that we have some technology, keep up with the technology innovations that occur. It seems almost, maybe not hourly, but weekly. There's a lot of innovations with technology, and that's something we have to keep up with. And I'm so pleased that we have the Chromebooks available K through 12 at this time, especially with COVID. It's just been a necessary item, and I think it's working out well. So as I said, I'm a Hoshian and so proud of it, and proud of our schools and supportive of it with every fiber of my body, and I hope to continue. So I appreciate any support. Thanks.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Jackie Lauer. And last but certainly not least, we have Ms. Leah Myers. If you could take a couple minutes, 2 minutes, and explain who you are and what your platform is.
Okay, wonderful. I'm going to start with my platform first, so then that way, if I run out of time. But the first thing I want to do is thank the League of Women Voters of Vigo County and the Vigo County Public Library and you, Rondrell, for doing this for us. We're not going to have many opportunities to debate this campaign season with COVID-19 going around. I personally feel that I'm the best choice to be on the Vigo County School Board of Trustees because I have been involved with the school corporation issues as a citizen watchdog for over 10 years now. And I have a daughter who has gone through the Vigo County School Corporation from K through 12. She graduated from Terre Haute North in 2015 and is still here in the community. I believe that we need new perspectives and new voices on the board. And if I earn your trust and earn your ability to have a vote, I will focus on quality education opportunities for all students to succeed during school and after graduation, create a connection of trust between the community, the board, and the administration in order to move forward, and give every voice to every citizen in our community, not just the parents, but also the taxpayers, the teachers, and even the students, because they do have opinions as well. My own personal information, I am not from Terre Haute. I lived in Connecticut for 23 years. My husband is from Rosedale, Indiana, which is why we ended up here in Indiana. I am currently a graduate assistant at Indiana State University, and I am working towards my master's in public administration at ISU. I have a bachelor's degree in political science from 2019 at ISU. And I think I have gone through a lot of personal life experience. I'm currently a member of the United Way Strong Neighborhoods Council. I'm currently a member of the Lost and Found Suicide Prevention Commission. And just wanting to make sure that our community grows forward. I've lived here for 26 years, and I want to make sure that the community continues on and is strong. And I think having a good school corporation is the cornerstone to that. So I think that's pretty much it. Wow, I got that all done in under
All right, that was like a minute and a half. Thank you so much. And thank you. All right, now it's time for questions. And with these questions, we're going to ask that you take a couple minutes, and I will be getting some cues from the powers that be to let me know if we're going over time. But we're going to ask, these are questions from the community, and we want you to speak your mind and what you feel is important. And we do have an order to this. We will continue the order that we've been going before. We ask that you, as always, and I know that you will, be respectful to your fellow candidates and just to people in general. But we're going to ask these questions that were submitted to the community. And Hiawatha Garrett, we are starting with you with this question, and this will be the same question for everybody. We'll just run through the cycle again. So the question says, other than diversity in STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and math, if elected, what initiatives would you think the school corporation should implement to help Vigo County in the long term? What initiatives do you think the school corporation should implement to help the Vigo County School Corporation in the long term? And again, Hiawatha Garrett. And we ask, okay, I've been given the cue, 1 minute per response, please.
We need to grow our teacher base. Oftentimes we look outside of our community for our educators. What we need to be doing is looking and forming ways to grow our own, basically. Looking for ways to encourage teacher leadership from our ranks. What types of the different types of programs that we can get to encourage teachers to take a lead, to take more interest and be more involved in our community. But we also need to make sure that we take care of our children and see that each child has an equal opportunity for the stellar education that Vigo County is noted for. We have grown many brilliant folks that have gone out into the community, out into the world. Amy Lohr is one of them. We have children that are capable, just given the opportunities, and we need to see that those opportunities are allowed for each child.
Thank you very much. And I'll give you guys a visual cue if you're looking to see kind of how you're doing on time. I like to smile a lot, but I'll do my big smile when it's time to stop talking if I can help it. That way I don't have to actually interrupt you, because you guys are saying so many wonderful things. I don't want to step on your toes at all. But okay, that same question, and if you need me to repeat it, just ask me and I can. But that same question to Mary Howard Hamilton.
Okay. Initiatives in the school system, I would say additional collaborations with particularly our post-secondary institutions, Ivy Tech in particular, because not all students want or even have the enthusiasm to pursue post-secondary degrees at the public 4-year level. I would also say that teacher training, additional resources available to teachers to have, now that we're in an environment that we can create platforms like this, webinars, professional development opportunities for teachers. I still am going to mention the diversity initiatives and diversity in terms of making sure that all of our teachers, our leaders, our educators are well versed and trained with regards to issues of racism in our society. I believe that the pandemic has created, or we don't know exactly what will happen post-pandemic. However, I know that what we're experiencing right now, we're experiencing individual trauma, mental trauma, emotional trauma, from having gone from collaboration with each other to isolation. I believe that there needs to be great counseling and good medical and health services available to our schools, our teachers, our leaders in the community. I think that's a big smile.
That's a big smile. Thank
Okay,
you. Good cue.
Yeah.
Good cue. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Next up, to answer the same question again, 1 minute, Stacy Killian.
I feel that one of our big initiatives we should be looking toward is fostering our students' interest. And to do that is to collaborate within our community, with our professional community, with our post-secondary. I think we should be looking at internships year-round, maybe not just summer internship programs. I think mentoring programs to start maybe as young as middle school would be wonderful. Students seem to engage and appreciate if the community would take involvement and interest in them. So if we help to foster those relationships, that they would possibly choose to remain within our community after graduation because of the kindness and the interest that our community took in them as young as middle school age all the way up through high school to mentor them. I also feel technology is a huge initiative right now. We have Chromebooks, that's wonderful, but it's just not enough. We have to have the proper training. It is almost like having being told to bake a cake and all you have is the oven. We need the electricity, we need the ingredients, we need the training. That is where we're at, I feel, in our technology portion, and that is a huge initiative for me to pursue and give that proper training to our teachers, to show our students how to use it, and make all of that accessible for all of the future success of all of our students. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Stacy. Next up with again, the same question, Paul Lockhart.
I thank you. I think to mention about the teacher shortage and to increase opportunities for our local youngsters to be interested in teaching is very important. I think the teaching aspect is with compensation and the shortage is going to be with us for some time. I also think we need to continue to reach out to the state and continue those efforts to develop good relationships with the state leaders, because much of the resources come from the state. I would also want to point out that when we passed our strategic plan in February, that was a culmination of 90-some community meetings and also literally thousands of hours of committee meetings to put that together. And that actually addresses what the long-range plans are for the school district as far as the board is concerned, although those things do change from time to time. I do think the mention about the technology is important. Teachers went through a lot of training throughout the summer, and students have been getting some training too. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very
I
much.
saw that big smile.
There it comes. I try to make it big and bright for everybody, but and a minute goes by very quickly, but I think you're getting a lot of good answers into this 1 minute question. Thank you so much, Mr. Lockhart. Next up, we have Amy Lore.
Yeah. Okay, great. So I have two things that I'd like to share. First of all, early childhood education. The On My Way pre-K program is growing in Indiana, and we have done good work to get that grant program started here. Getting to our kids early is important and doing that strategically. So long-term plans starting young. It's very important that we continue to expand on that. And then also we have tremendous incentives from the state right down to where we are here to commingle our workforce development and education programs. We have the governor's workforce cabinet has sent us this giant strategic plan, and co-enrolling our JAG students with CTE would be a wonderful way to increase our graduation rates for those at-risk students. And that JAG is Jobs for America's Graduates. My husband used to participate as an instructor in that program. It's fantastic. And that is something I would love to see grow here, and for Terre Haute to really lead the way for that. And then also just working with the state leaders to make sure that what we're doing, I'm getting a big smile, I think, is in track with that. So hard stuff.
All right. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Amy. Next up with the same question again, Jackie Lauer.
Okay, I could say ditto to almost everything that's been said so far, so I'm going to try to go off the track a little bit in that besides the technology and the diversity, I really think that we are just getting started on some emphasis on agriculture. And for the first time, we have in all 3 high schools some classes geared toward that. Agriculture anymore is not just farming technique. It's very involved in the technology and machinery. And I just think that's an area that we haven't focused focused on very much lately, but is of interest to many students. So I think that's important to have those innovation ideas as to curriculum, but also I want to work with the state leaders very much so. I think the morale is a little bit low among teachers, and I would really like to reinforce their importance and the feeling of community involvement and support.
All right, thank you very much. And next up, I believe we have Leah Myers.
Okay, the two initiatives that I want to focus on, and I'll be as brief as I can, is resilience and retention. Resilience. We need to have a resilience training for our students. There are still bullying issues. I have talked with many parents. They've messaged me on my Facebook page, and they talk about how their students are feeling that the bullying issue is not going away. We need to really work to help our students build that resilience so that way they can overcome obstacles, and that will help them in the future, especially with a pandemic going on right now. I think we're all feeling a little low. With retention, I think we talk a lot about how we're losing enrollment. I think we need to focus more on how to retain the students that we currently have. Some parents have told me, I tried to contact the school corporation about the virtual program. I've tried to talk with them about other things, and they only get a phone call when they've actually withdrawn their student from the school corporation. We need to be more proactive with that, so that way the student can be, we can help the student where they're at and keep them in the school corporation.
All right, thank you so much. And finally, for this round, Mr. Mel Burke. Mr. Burke, I think you're muted.
I want to go pretty good. Thank you,
There you
sir. One, I support all the things that have been said. I support them. But here's what I want to talk about. And I think that sometimes it gets overlooked. One, I want to talk about, I think the teachers, they are involved with our precious commodity every single day, and that is our students. I believe the teachers, their salaries need to be increased to indicative of the people at which they are around every day, and those are our kids. And I think that's very important. First of all, their profession should be one of the highest paid professions in our country. One, safety. Safety is very important, given with COVID-19. That is extremely important in terms of how we address that issue, because we need to hunker down this fall and in the winter, because it's coming. It's coming, and it's coming hard. Two, I think the parents and administration need to collaborate with a higher level of collaboration to make sure that we are headed in the right direction. Our structure, we need to talk about our schools. What does it do when you go into a school that looks tore down? What does it do to you as a student going to those kind of schools? And so I want to leave it right there.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Burke. Thank you all for your answers to that question. I'm going to move ahead. Time is moving along very quickly. I'm actually going to move to our next question. We'll jump past another question that we had, but this one is very time accurate. Hybrid schooling is quite difficult for many parents. They work, many don't have internet access, etc. And many agencies are offering assistance at various costs. Would the school corporation consider establishing learning pods or something similar to assist parents if online learning continues? What role should the school corporation have in meeting the needs of all students and families? It's kind of a lengthy question, basically the crux. What role should the corporation have in meeting the needs of all students and families as hybrid education continues? And to begin this, we will start with Mary Howard Hamilton.
Okay. All right, Rondrell, thank you. Well, the COVID-19 pandemic has created an opportunity for the Vigo County School Corporation, as well as our schools, to create unique platforms for for a better and a more supportive process for teaching our students. What the types of things that need to be done? Well, there could be a collaboration with, again, our post-secondary institutions. We've got a technical institution in town, right down the road. We also have a wonderful community college system that also has created robust hybrid teaching techniques, as well as even at Indiana State. Our program, for example, has been teaching hybrid for about 25 years now. So collaborations with individuals and professionals in the community can be built stronger. The opportunity for, again, training for everyone. And if there is an opportunity, I know that there are grants available, if there's an opportunity to collaborate with technical corporations, Verizon, Joint, other organizations and corporations, we need to make that collaboration seamless and immediately. Do that immediately. Stop there.
Thank you very much for your response. All right, next up, Stacy Killian, that same question.
Thank you. This really hits home for me as I'm living it every day, and I'm seeing my boys who are very affluent struggle. And I hate that for them. I feel like we are a family that has every opportunity at our fingertips, with Chad and I both working from home. My kids don't struggle in school traditionally, and we have the technology within our home to succeed, and they're still struggling. And I appreciate what the school board has done to advance technology and to help us and actually have these different options with the AB cohort and the Virtual Success Academy and the hybrid option, which is wonderful to have those choices during this time. But we need to do more. And it's so hard to see my kids struggle and to know that they are missing their friends and missing that interaction. And what I feel is the biggest struggle is just the communication part of it. I have talked to several of their teachers. They're at a loss as well. They're doing the best that they can. They are reaching out to me as I reach out to them, and I appreciate that so much. Even with Gabe doing the Success Academy, I reached out to his teacher at North. She said, once my kid, always my kid, and I will help him any way that I can, which is amazing. As far as learning pods go, I feel the school corporation has a huge opportunity to collaborate with our nonprofit organizations and other community partnerships to build upon those learning pods. Tell them what they like to see and what they're doing and how we can work together to do that. And then there's Joint with the GEARS grant, helping to bring internet accessibility to those underprivileged homes and communities to get those kids that internet access they so desperately need in this time of COVID, especially moving forward.
All right. Thank you so much for that response. Next up, Paul Lockhart, that same question.
Hey, thank you. I think I think our administration is doing this with their administrative teams, thinking outside the box. And I think they've been doing that, trying to come up with ideas, listening to the public, listening to different authorities or experts, if you will, out there as what can be done. And I think there's a lot of talk about, and I think there's some action on working with nonprofits in the area. I know there's some nonprofits that have actually started cases, is one of them, having some learning pods, if you want to call it that, at that organization. But I think thinking outside the box and not saying no to any idea, but researching it. And I think our administrative team is trying to do that. And I encourage people to send those ideas in. I'm going to encourage our administration to listen to this when it's published next week. I think it's next Saturday, because I think it'd be very helpful to them to hear these ideas. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, Amy Lohr.
Thank you. So I think what I'm hearing when you ask this question is really getting to the heart of the equity question for our schools, right? Are we able to provide services for all students in a general and uniform way that our state constitution directs us to do? And that has to be at the heart of of how we make decisions and move forward. And I think it's the appropriate role of the school board. First of all, I want to commend the plans that we've put forward. In my position, I have looked at a lot of different reopening plans for bigger and smaller school districts. I have no complaints about what they've put in place. I think it's best practices have been implemented, but it's never been done before. There are implementation problems, and we have kids that it's always the least of us who fall through the cracks. And so I think it is incumbent upon a school board as the financial steward of our corporation to work hand in glove with the administration, not only to support that day-to-day management and let them do that, but also to look forward and look at grant opportunities, get creative about the things that are happening. Stacy mentioned that Governor's Emergency Education Relief Fund. That also included professional development for teachers in technical education and how in pedagogy, online teaching techniques. Let's see if we can find more of that. There may be more of that coming down the pike in future federal legislation. So those things I think should be our focus.
All right, thank you very much. Next up to answer that same question, Jackie Lauer.
Well, these are challenging times that we've never faced before. We've never had to deal with what we're dealing with now with COVID-19. And I think that the hours and hours and hours that the administrative team have put forth in developing the three choices with the hybrid and the virtual school and the brick and mortar have been the best that is possible to do. Vigo County has a large footprint, and so there are areas that don't have the Wi-Fi accessibility, and teachers have actually gone out to, have delivered booklets and paper materials to the students and these families that did not have Wi-Fi connection. We have a lot of associations in Terre Haute that have helped with activities. The Children's Museum has different activities to work with the cohorts, with its A or B cohort that students are involved in. And I think the community has stepped up in lots of ways to help deal with students and what they have to do. So we just have to struggle on. That's all there is to it.
All right, thank you very much. And Leah Myers, next up to answer that question.
I was very fortunate with my daughter that I was able to stay home with her for the I want to say until she hit the middle part of middle school. Not every parent has that opportunity, and the working parents are having difficulty with the kids being home 2 and 3 days out of the week. In fact, I've talked with some teachers where they teach at a specific school, they have younger children, but because of the AB cohort, they can't find somebody to watch their child. So we need to make sure that the parents that are working, we can help them as much as we can. We also have to understand that some students do not learn well online. They would like to be in the brick and mortar buildings. Some parents have no options. They can't afford to sign up for one of these pods that are being offered. I know that I think a few of them are offering financial scholarships for those that need to apply for that. We need to make sure that the student's learning experience always comes first. And we don't know how much longer this is going to be with us. We have no idea. I'm glad the corporation produced the Chromebooks. I'm glad we've got the grant that's helping us to get some more hotspots, the Wi-Fi spots. Those are the things that were concerning to me, because not everybody has internet connectivity and not everybody has the opportunity to have that book.
All right, thank you very much, Leah. And I believe, we have 2 more left. Mr. Berg, Mel Berg, if you can answer this question.
Yes, can you repeat the question, sir?
Yes, I can. I absolutely can. It talks about hybrid schooling being quite difficult on the parents. Would the school corporation consider establishing learning pods or something similar to assist parents if online learning continues? What role should the school corporation have in meeting the needs of all students and families?
I just think that they have a tremendous responsibility in meeting that burden. And I think that if you see what is going on in the school corporation today with the leadership of Dr. Hayworth and what he and his staff is doing, you can see they're walking down that pathway on how to establish something delicately, yet and still be concerned about the education, but also be concerned about the mental health of the students and of the parent. So I think that if Dr. Hayworth and his administration continue on in what they have built in the school system today, I think that dealing with the hybrid situation, I think that we would be able to at least balance that out as a corporation and as a system to carry on to meet the burden of the education of our students. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. And finally, for this round, Hiawatha Garrett.
Well, this is really brought around the the importance of that old saying, it takes a village to raise a child. No longer can we just operate in our own little pods and our own little sections. You know, you're responsible for the education of the child in this, and you're for this. It takes this entire community to see that these children are educated. That means working with the different agencies, working with the health industry, working with the mental health industry to see that everyone is taken care of, and to see that all children have the opportunity, not just for education, but for safety and for health care too. Because both are very important, and not just for that student, but also for those caregivers. We need to look at that too, and what type of stress or problems that this is creating for them, because if they're not healthy, they're not going to produce healthy children and a good education.
All right, thank you so much, and thank you everyone for your answers. Some really good answers to that question, which is, it's going to stick around, unfortunately, which actually leads us to our next question, which comes directly from the League of Women Voters of Vigo County. So I'll read it for you, and this time we will start with Stacy Killian to answer this question, but let me read this question from the League. The pandemic is undoubtedly going to cause additional stress on the school corporation's finances. What do you think the priorities of the school corporation should be at this time? How do you think the effects of the pandemic will shift priorities of the corporation in the future? And Stacy, we'll start with you to answer this question from the League.
Thank you. I think the financial impact will be felt within the school corporation and the community. And I think we need to keep in mind those innovative ideas and to work together collaboratively for grants and to seek opportunities to help lessen that burden financially on the school corporation. We should, seek out community members and ask their ideas, how they think we could help, impact this and keep the financial burden lower than what we may anticipate. We have had a referendum passed back in November, that's directly led on to the taxpayers. And so we want to keep in mind that these are families we may ask to help the burden with COVID-19 as it continues. And we have to keep in mind that's hard for families during this time. If there is job loss or, just a pause in the job there, we definitely need to be kind to that. And so keeping that communication and that transparency open and to be mindful and have a direct path of how we're going to do this. I think Dr. Hayworth has laid out a great plan already, but he's also shown he's willing to listen to the community. And I hope that continues with Dr. Hayworth. And I look forward to collaborating with him and other school board members to help lessen this financial burden on the school corporation as well as our community at large. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Stacy. Next up to answer this particular question will be Paul Lockhart.
Thank you. Well, first and foremost, safety of the students and staff and the community is most important. And that is obviously where we're spending a lot of money right now for safety in terms of COVID-19, to protect our staff and to protect the students and protect the community. Some of that is recouped, if you will, through FEMA. Our staff has worked extremely hard to be sure that every dollar that can be recouped, they submit the claims. I think about every 3 months they're allowed to submit, and they're getting not every dollar back, obviously, but they're getting a good portion of those back. And that's very important that we continue to do that, to seek those funds that are available through the federal and state government. With grants, we have some of the best grant writers there are in the state, in my opinion, through Dr. Goldler and the curriculum and folks that are working with her. So we go after the grants and every one that they possibly can, and just like the grant that we partnered with Joint on. The referendum, okay, I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lockhart. Next up, to answer the same question from the League will be Amy Lohr.
Okay, thank you. So I think we have three things we need to be working on. Planning, planning, planning. We have to be strategically budgeting because we know this year we've had that K-12 financial freeze. Everybody knows that they have the money that they have. But we also know that the governor has issued a 12% across the board a recommendation for budget cuts in state government. And let's move forward assuming that we're going to get hit with something similar. Let's make that plan for a 12% cut in our state funding. And if we get more than that, then we'll be in great shape. But if that's what we get, then we will know what we're doing. So we need to be planning and thinking ahead and long term while the administration is handling the day-to-day activities. Also advocating. We need to be reaching up. We're about to approach a budget session with our state government. They've talked about possibly delaying that start until March because of the pandemic. We have a little bit of time to get a good message together and work together and present a good, strong case for why particularly Vigo County schools need to be protected with funding. And then the last thing I will say is that we've got to support our local tax base. Shop local, buy local, get out there and more than collaborate, spend your money so that local revenue is not impacted as badly as it has to be because of this. Thanks.
All right, thank you very much, Amy. Next up to answer the question, Jackie Lauer.
Okay, well, I will say regarding finances, we have spent a tremendous amount of money on feeding our children, as most people are well aware of, throughout the summer, and we will continue to do those that are home and those that are in the brick and mortar, of course. And so our expenses there have increased. However, we have saved money on transportation because the buses have not been running as much because most of the students are at home or with our cohorts. They're they're separated a little bit. Secondly, of course, our grant writing is incredible, and we do pursue almost all the grants that are possible. Thirdly, I think that the support and communication with our state leaders is so very important, and I'm hoping that the community recognizing the sacrifices and the determination and dedication that the teachers have shown, jumping from one plan and agenda that they've had in the past to deal with the COVID. The changes they've had to make have been, I call them my warriors because they're so very good. But the state legislature needs to know about that because there has not been the support in the past. They have done a lot of support for private institutions. Thanks.
All right, thank you very much. And next up to answer the question, Leah Myers.
Okay, wonderful. I believe that the school corporation's first responsibility is to the safety of the students, the staff, the teachers, and the administration. That's very important. Not knowing how much PPE the teachers have, I know that that's pretty expensive, but we also have the CARES grant. Everybody, I agree with the amount of grant writers that we have. They're fantastic and take wonderful opportunities. One of the things I think we need to think about is moving forward from here. We're currently in the AB cohort. When is it going to be safe to bring the kids back into school? Are we going to have to go backwards and go back to remote learning? That's something we need to look at the numbers daily in Vigo County and think about to kind of gauge as to when it's going to be safe for the kids to come back. And like Amy said, shop local. And I'm going to add, wear your mask, 6 feet social distancing, because that is incredibly important for us to help get these numbers down.
All right, thank you very much, Leah. Next up, Mel Burke, same question.
Yes, I think in terms of dealing with this is a very strategic question that is being asked here because there's so many different things that you have to deal with. One, safety of our student, safety of our teachers, safety of our administrators. That is important. So, but money has been spent to try to make sure that everyone is safe within the school corporation. And you can see that whether you go to a sports game or whether you go to visit the schools, you'll see that The administration is focused on that. The other thing in terms of dealing with finances, in terms of what we need to do, I agree with Ms. Lauer in terms of dealing with the saving aspect of money in reference to the bus or not traveling. That is very important, and that saves a whole lot of gas. You'd be surprised what gas costs today and how it affects the school corporation in any business. And I can say here at Hamilton Center, what we have done in terms of dealing with making sure that individuals are safe is provide methods to allow individuals to work from home. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Burt. And next up, Hiawatha Garrett to answer that same question.
Well, that is a very complicated question. Where do we go from here? What are we going to do about the money? One of the things that I think needs to happen at the state, and this is coming from a person who has been in the classroom and has seen the results of such things. They were wanting to get away so much from public education, and a lot of money was diverted from public education into private sectors, into charter schools and things. When you look at the overall results, it's not working. Why are we keep throwing money in that direction when we have to now worry about the majority of our schools and the majority of our students, their safety, their education, their access, their the accountability? Why are we continuing? The state needs to look at why are they continuing to throw money at a system that's not working. Those funds need to be diverted back to the public education, which serves the majority of our students.
All right. And the final word for this morning will go to Mary Howard Hamilton.
Well, thank you, Rondrell. Yeah, fiscal responsibility is critically important. We know that generally the bulk of a budget in education stems from the people who work and teach in that system. The salaries, the insurance, the retirement, the pay. We don't want to see any of that harmed or decreased in any way, shape, or form, particularly during this time when everybody is struggling and folks need to make sure that the income is solid. So we want to make sure that our teachers and our staff are fully funded and remain fully funded and keep their jobs. So fiscal responsibility, my key thought is to make sure that that people don't lose their jobs. Also, we need to be engaged in the community and encourage the community to be more supportive of our schools. If that means additional shifting monies from other areas within our community to be more supportive of our schools, so be it. If that means the possibility of fundraisers, funding, being creative about putting monies into the coffers, so be it. So I'll stop there.
All right. Thank you so much. And I just want to thank all of you for taking time out to talk this morning. Again, during the pandemic, it's just difficult to meet up in general, let alone for something that's so important for our elections. I'm sure the number one message that all of you have is to vote in November. And that's so important for the community to do on behalf of the League of Women Voters of Vigo County and also the Vigo County Public Library. We want to thank you so much just for spending time with us on today. The hour honestly just flew by. I looked down and I was like, oh boy, we got to wrap this up. We have more questions, but I'm sure we'll be hearing more from you as we move forward into November. Thank you so much for stopping by, and hey, have a good Saturday.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Hey,
Bye, everyone.
yes, vote.
Yes, please vote.
Yes.
Vote. Everybody vote.
Well, I just want to welcome you to our 2020 candidate forum, and we're talking to state legislators, specifically the state representative, and we are so glad to have Representative Tanya Path here with us today. This forum is put on by the League of Women Voters from Vigo County and also the Vigo County Public Library. And we just want to note that we've reached out to all candidates, and Tanya Path responded, was able to make it for today. And so we're so glad that she's here with us. And this is just a wonderful time, especially during the pandemic, to come together and just talk about some of the issues that voters and the public have as we go into the election. And again, Tanya Papp has been so gracious to join us on today. So glad to have you today, Tanya.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. So we're going to start by just letting you kind of introduce yourself, your platform, some of the things you've worked on while you've been in the legislature. We ask about 2 minutes, but it's just the two of us, so we can be casual today. We can kind of be laid back on our timing, but this is just the time to kind of introduce yourself.
Well, good morning. My name is Tanya Papp. I was born and raised in Vigo County, so I've spent most of my 53 years here. I started out at St. Anne's Elementary School and then went to Chauncey Rose and then went to North. And I ended up getting a degree at St. Mary of the Woods College. And then I took I got married along the way, and I'm married to my husband, Chris, for almost 25 years now. We have 4 children. Griffin just graduated from Purdue. Ann she's a senior at IU. Greta is a junior at ISU. And Kate is a junior at Terre Haute North. I am a full-time high school math teacher, so I'm just starting my 28th year. I taught at South and then West Vigo and now at North. So during this pandemic, my daughter Kate and I go to school together. She goes every other day, I go every day. And I just finished my first 2 years in the General Assembly, so I'm obviously up for re-election. And my platform, basically, I'm working on education, healthcare, and jobs. Those are the 3 biggies, and that's what helps Vigo County in particular become a better place to live. So I've enjoyed my 2 years. I'd appreciate all your support for another 2.
Absolutely. All right. Well, Tanya, thank you so much for that. And let's hop in with some questions that have been submitted. These are from the public, and they talk about a variety of issues. The first one involves the environment, and it says that our state ranks 49 out of 50 in air quality, according to U.S. News. Will you sponsor legislation which will help protect Hoosier residents from the hazards associated with bad air quality? Will you work with the Hoosier Environmental Council to develop such legislation?
I'm a big fan of the environment. I would be happy to work with the Environmental Council to sponsor some legislation. I know that in the past 2 years, we've tried some things, and a lot of the times the bills that get introduced don't go very far. But absolutely, especially living in Vigo County, I think air quality is so incredibly important. Yeah, I have no problem if they reach out to me. Absolutely, I'll be happy to listen to them and see what I can do.
All right. Thank you very much. Moving on to the next question.
Hey.
Indiana ranks 34 out of 50 in water quality. Sticking with the environment here. Testing of lakes and rivers by the Indiana Department of Environmental Management, or IDEM, show that our most prevalent challenge to water quality is high levels of E. coli, which are bacteria from animal and human feces. Do you have a plan to address this threat to safe drinking water in Indiana?
I would love to see a plan for that. Now, so we did have a bill last year about lead in the water that was passed by Representative Jackson up in Lake County that finally mandates that all schools have to be tested for lead in their water. Now, this is a little bit a different issue, and I think IDM, they do a pretty good job, but like many state agencies, they're just quite frankly overwhelmed. I'd be happy to look into legislation to try to fix the water quality because, that affects our quality of life.
Absolutely. All right, sticking with the environment. We're starting environmentally tough here. We talk about the state having more extremely hot days, and we're getting kind of into the area of, whether we believe in global warming or not. Do you have a plan on hardening our infrastructure to improve flood mitigation and reinforce our dams? Because with any sort of climate change or any sort of issue, flooding remains an issue. Do you have a plan to cut the Hoosier State's production of greenhouse emissions and switch the state to a clean energy future?
Rondrell, do you have any more background on that?
Okay, so I'm going to read this entire question for you, and it's lengthy. That's why I kind of cut it down a little bit, but I'm going to read the entire question, and hopefully that'll help. So bear with me here. In the coming decades, the state will have more extremely hot days, which may harm public health in urban areas and corn and soybean harvests in rural areas. Over the last half century, average annual precipitation in most of the Midwest has increased by 5 to 10%, but rainfall during the 4 wettest days of the year have increased about 35%, and the amount of water flowing in most streams during the worst flood of the year has increased by more than 20%. And I'm looking for a source for this information, but it does not have one here, but I'll just keep going. The threats to our cities and infrastructure from more severe storms and flooding are growing. Global warming will also result in more severe droughts. These floods and droughts and more severe storms harm all citizens, our economy, infrastructure, but most of all, our poorest citizens. And then it goes into, do you have a plan to fund the hardening of our infrastructure, improve flood mitigation, and reinforce our dams? Do you have a plan to cut Hoosier State's production on greenhouse emissions and switch the state to a clean energy future? So a few numbers were thrown out there, again, without really a source, but that was the public's question that they put out there, just in terms of basically the concerns about green gas emissions, global warming, and their concerns about that. So does that help you?
Yeah, a little bit more. So, global warming is such a national issue. I believe in this specific question, it really needs to start at the top down. I mean, we as a society need to work on, eliminating greenhouse effects and stuff like that. But the problem with Indiana, so I know with our infrastructure, with our roads and our bridges, we've got a big issue. They all need work, not all of them, but we really need to work on our bridges, our dams, our roads to help cut this down. For me specifically, I'd be happy to work with anyone because I agree this is an issue. I do not have a specific plan at this time, but I'll be happy to work with anyone to try to help solve this crisis.
All right. All right. I'll read this next question. Again, we're going to have a lot of numbers here, and I'm just going to read it all for you because I don't want to take away any of the information that may be important to it. So 36% of Hoosiers are poor or low income, including 52% of women, 44% of women, 64% of Blacks, and 61% of Latinx people, and 36% of white people. Between 1979 and 2012, income for the top 1% of Hoosiers rose by 96%, while the income of the bottom 99% fell by 3%, working out a minimum wage of $7.25 an hour. It takes 88 hours of work per week to afford a 2-bedroom apartment. A true living wage based on our cost of living should be around $24 an hour. Our surrounding states all have higher minimum wages. Would you vote to increase our minimum wage to at least $15 an hour? Now, that was a math problem that I just read for you, and I know that that could be your area of expertise. So I'm sure that you're quite comfortable in that. But the gist of it is that Indiana's minimum wage is less than surrounding states. Do you feel that that should be that way? Do you agree with raising the minimum wage? What are your thoughts on that?
I feel like a student in my math class where, 2 trains are leaving the station at different times. And, so minimum wage at $7.25 is first of all, it's not a living wage. Okay, it's not intended to be a living wage. Would I vote to increase it? Absolutely. I think the fact that we're, all our surrounding states have a higher minimum wage than we do, I think that's ridiculous. Now, 15 hours is quite a jump, so I don't want people to get confused. I am not in support of going from $7.25 an hour to 15 in a month. That the economy couldn't handle that. I would support a gradual minimum wage increase, just like the surrounding states have been. And what that number is, I don't know right now, but $7.25 is just too low.
All right. All right. Handled like a true math teacher. I'm glad you get that. All right, next question. Additional public education is a method of increasing opportunity for roughly half of Indiana residents who have incomes insufficient to their needs. Would you fully fund kindergarten for all Hoosier children?
Yes.
Okay.
You keep going.
The next part of it, or would you support funding the cost of post-high school training for at least 2 years? So, I don't know if it has to be an either or question. Would you fund either or both of those?
So as a public teacher for 28 years, the very beginning of your start in education, I would fully fund preschool. I mean, to me, love of learning, it just sets you up for life. So as soon as we can get them in, and not give them a whole bunch of standards, but get kids to love to learn, to get that curiosity. A 5-year-old going into kindergarten is completely different than a high school junior sitting in front of me trying to learn geometry. So to me, we need to fully fund kindergarten. We need to get more access to people. Like right now, there was a bill that expanded full-time kindergarten around the state. However, there's still not enough seats for the people that need it. So for me, absolutely. Now, after school, the 2 years, I think that was part of the question, right?
Right, yes.
What was the question?
It was specifically asking about, would you support funding the cost of post-high school training for at least 2 years?
So post-high school training, it depends what it is. So right now we do a great job there's so many opportunities to go either to what's traditionally known as a junior college or workforce development. The unions all have really great apprenticeship programs. So there are opportunities. That's sort of too broad of a question for me to answer. But I know right now there's so many opportunities right now that if you want to go get a job, you want to get training, it's out there. You just have to look for it.
Okay. I think that answers it. I think it does. All right, moving on. Plowing right through these. Single mothers in our state are caught in a catch-22. They're required to get a job to receive help through the TANF program. The help given is very limited, according to this question, but the jobs available in our state pay about what childcare costs. Many do not have a family support system to provide free babysitting. Please lay out a vision for addressing the concern of single mothers in the Hoosier state when it comes to getting the financial help that they receive or that they need.
So I will say, so my husband was deployed 2 different times, once to Afghanistan and once to Kuwait. And so I was a single mom for a good 11 months, which is nothing like being a single mom for years. But I really felt it's really very difficult. I'm running around with 4 kids going every which way and, trying to work at the same time and put food on the table. I have a good support system because I live 3 blocks from my parents, but not everyone has that possibility. So last year, 2 years ago, I co-sponsored a bill to raise TANF, to raise the benefits from TANF, because it hasn't been touched, I might get the year wrong, since the 80s. So that is definitely on the horizon. Actually, I've been working with Senator John Ford on that particular issue. So for single moms, yes, I'm fully support that we need to offer more availability. And as a state, I think the pandemic really shone a big light on childcare and the problems we have as a state with childcare, offering childcare, at a reasonable, a decent childcare, that is offered at a reasonable price. Because whomever wrote this question is spot on. How can you justify working all week just to pay someone else to watch your kids? So it's definitely an issue that needs looked into.
Thank you very much for that answer. Indiana had more than 5,000 homeless citizens in 2018. The numbers are growing as a result of low wage scales and the high cost of housing and deepening of the recession because of health emergencies caused by unhealthy environment, lack of health care, untreated mental conditions. The number continues to get larger and larger. What are your plans to deal with the homeless problem in the Hoosier state?
So while I've been over there for 2 years, these issues come up, and then for some reason they sort of get brushed to the side. I think Vigo County, I can speak specifically about Vigo County, I've met with different homeless coalitions, and they're making strides. It is such a huge problem, even nationally, that I would love to help people. So, that's kind of why I wanted to be a representative. It's why I wanted to be a teacher. So I need to have people give me ideas on what we can do to help the homeless and go from there.
Sure. It's a big issue that has been a big issue for a while. And
yeah, for years.
It doesn't seem like it's going anywhere anytime soon. Next question. Okay. Compared with insured adults, uninsured adults have more health disadvantages, including worse outcomes, higher rates of mortality, higher rates of cancer mortality, and greater risk of late-stage cancer diagnosis. Would you be willing to support a bill which would fund a program to make insurance available to uninsured people in the Hoosier State?
Oh, absolutely. Healthcare is such a complicated, confusing issue for so many people, especially if you're uninsured. So even if you're insured, I was talking to a teacher the other day, and she got stung by a couple bees this past summer, and she had a reaction. And so she went to the emergency room, and they treated her very well. And then the bill was $10,000. Now, you cannot look at healthcare and say that is right. So healthcare as a whole is a problem. If you're insured, you're paying really extreme co-payments. And if you get an x-ray, you get an MRI, I mean, it just keeps ballooning. I had a constituent call, and they got COVID, and they ended up with just thousands and thousands of dollars worth of bills. And she was uninsured. And so that's a whole nother problem. So I am absolutely all for working with any kind of legislation that makes this better for uninsured and insured patients.
Fantastic. All right. Next up, Black Hoosiers make up 9% of our population, but they account for 34% of our prison population. Indiana's incarceration rate is 722 per 100,000. Black Hoosiers are incarcerated at almost 5 times the rate of white Hoosiers. What reforms to our justice system would you suggest to address this disparity in numbers?
You know, in light of the recent situations all summer long, I think I'm going to pull it back to Vigo County. I think we're doing a better job than a lot of other places. So, for example, the Terre Haute Police Department just they're moving forward with getting body cams. And I was talking to an officer, and I said, a police officer, I said, are you okay with body cameras? And he said, absolutely. He said, they protect, both the victim and myself. If our police, if our law enforcement are wearing body cameras, there's a much better transparency rate. I think just that little thing, which actually is a big thing, will help with these numbers. Now, but we've got a long way to go. I know the Indiana Black Legislative Caucus has rolled out a whole list of concerns and legislation that they want to put forth and see if we can change some laws in Indiana. And I'm highly in support of all of them.
Okay. There's some follow-ups to that question that go along. Would you endorse, and I think we're getting a little more specific with what you had just mentioned, would you endorse certain things like policing, hiring police that reflect the racial makeup of the community, eliminating the bail system, which results in imprisonment before trial for the poor, better vetting of political beliefs when hiring police officers to make sure they'll treat people equally? Those are some of the suggestions that this question asks. Are you a proponent of some of those things? How do you feel about those potential proposed solutions?
I got 2 of them. So the racial makeup, absolutely. I think that our police force needs to reflect society. I also think our teaching, our public educators need to reflect society. So you go in a classroom, and I think you should have a racial diversity of teachers. It's the same on the police force. Not everyone talks to each other in the same way. And so absolutely, I definitely support that. But we also have to work on getting people that want to do these jobs. So I'm most comfortable talking with teaching. I would love for us to have a more diverse staff, but we have to have applicants that want to. So we also need to work on that. Same thing with the police force. There was something you said about, okay, give me the second and third. That was the first.
The second was eliminating the bail system, which some believe results in the imprisonment before trial for the poor. And then the other one was better vetting political beliefs, and I'm going to add in potentially they meant social beliefs as well when hiring police officers to make sure that they'll treat people equally.
I think it's so important for diversity training. not only diversity, but also mental health training. So let's say, police are law enforcement. That's what they do. So if someone has a mental health issue, doesn't really fall under what a police officer does. So one potential idea is to send, if you know it's going to be that call, send a social worker with the two officers out. And then I think we really as a society have to work more on mental health. I mean, we've got a lot of problems, which ties into the homelessness as well. We really need to come up with some solutions on how we're going to deal with the mental health crisis, the homelessness. But I don't think it's fair to keep putting everything on law enforcement because it's the easiest thing to do.
Next question is, in a way, kind of a follow-up to it, and it deals with federal military equipment being used in local police forces.
Okay.
What is your thought on that? Do you believe that it is exorbitant? Do you believe that it is the right amount? Do you believe that it's not enough? Where do you think that when it comes to a quote-unquote militarization of some parts of local police forces, how do you think that figures into all of this?
Is there more to this question?
There's absolutely more to this.
Please, yep. Could you give me the background?
I will. Between 2008 and 2014, Indiana law enforcement received $53.7 million in federal military equipment. This implies that to be effective, the police must win an arms race with criminals. Community-based policing encourages citizens to trust rather than fear police. Some are suggesting that taking some of the police budget and spending it on community infrastructure and social programs which address poverty would result in less crime and fewer blighted lives. Do you feel that militarization is consistent with the need to protect the communities and make them feel safe? What combination of these three approaches to policing do you support, and why would you make law enforcement reform a legislative priority?
That is a really complicated question.
Yes. Yes, it is.
I think my easiest answer is, absolutely I support looking at all facets of this. I really don't know enough to tell you what specifically I would do. This is one of those very complicated issues that I need to look at and study and get a wide variety of opinions before I could answer.
That's fair. That's fair. All right, moving on.
Oh, how many more do we have? Like 20?
I'm looking at it. We've got a few. They were coming high and heavy with you. I tell you what, I know that we're cognizant of time. We'll do, and I'm looking at the powers that be. If we did maybe two more questions, we got the green light for two more questions, and I think we'll be all right with this. So let me kind of look through some things and make sure that we're. Here's one. If you could fix, and that's in quotations, if you could fix any law currently on the books in Indiana, which law would it be, and in what way would you fix it?
I'd pay teachers more, and not because I'm a teacher. So when I talk about teacher salary, I'm not talking about myself. I'm talking about beginning teachers from year 0 to 10. That's when we need to capture the best, the brightest teachers possible. I have 4 of my own children. None of them want to be a teacher. They all say, Mom, why would I want to be a teacher and make $38,000 after I spent 4 years in college and I have a whole bunch of bills? So what I would fix, because education is the foundation of everything. When people come, when they start looking at places to move, they look at healthcare and education. And if you don't have a vibrant healthcare or a vibrant education, your workforce development is just not going to be there. So to me, education is the foundation of everything. And it's just like the market. When I was in session, the superintendent got up and offered an English teacher who had previously said, listen, I'll give you $5,000 to come to my community tomorrow. So when we're trying to bargain for teachers to move because of pay, we have a problem in Indiana. So my fix would be, and it sounds just like I'm all about education, but it is the foundation of so many things. So that would be mine.
All right. Well, and the last question, then we'll stick with education.
Okay.
During the best of times, poverty causes a distinct disadvantage to a child's education. With the current health crisis, a lack of internet access and a home only exacerbates that problem. What can be done to help give children across socioeconomic lines equal opportunity to succeed during these times?
Two things. Broadband. Broadband is a huge issue. So for education, we noticed in April and May, when I was trying to teach online to 80 students, some of them just never did have internet access. Their parents are working all day. They didn't drive them to a place where they're going to sit in a parking lot and try to do homework. I mean, think how ridiculous that sounds. So broadband and access all over Indiana is so important. That is something I'm absolutely just 100% for. You have small businesses, you have farmers, you have kids trying to learn. That's a huge one. Laptops is another one. So in order to hopefully get the disparity to come a little bit closer together, we just passed out laptops to everyone at North High School. I think they're down to the high school and the middle schools all have laptops now. And just giving a kid who's never had a laptop before and saying, here you go, it's just like a textbook, treat it well. It just opens up a whole new world. So if I'm a kid who's struggling in math, I'll talk about math, of course, and I'm having trouble, the teachers know there's resources, Khan Academy, you just go on Khan Academy, and that kid could sit at home and bring themselves up. So, I mean, that alone will help, tighten that gap.
Absolutely. Well, that's it, Tanya. Those were all the questions that I
You
had.
don't want to go another hour?
I could do it easily, but I don't know that all the viewers would necessarily be as enthralled with just me. They're riveted by what you're saying. Were there any last words or any last thoughts that you wanted to leave with the voters?
Rondrell, as always, thank you. And the League of Women Voters and the Vigo County Public Libraries, you guys do a great job of getting access to the voters. I think my last word would be vote. I think, for me, being a representative is about showing up. So I go in the community as much as possible. I talk to many people as possible, but voting is the biggest thing that people can do. Do some research, figure out who you want to vote for, and go out and vote. So that is my biggest push always. So thank you as always for everything you do as well.
Such an important message. Thank you so much. And on behalf of the League of Women Voters of Vigo County, as well as Vigo County Public Library, thank you for spending time with us, answering these questions that were submitted by the public. Just want to reiterate that, not necessarily submitted by the library or by the league, or definitely not from me, but these are from the public. And I think it's important that we at least attempt to answer these questions, because there are a lot of questions that are out there that some of the public may never get to see it one-on-one. So thank you for taking your time and stopping with us. And
you're welcome. You have a great day. Thank you.
You do the same. You do the same. Take care. All right. Well, this is the 2020 Candidate Forum put on by the Vigo County Public Library and also the League of Women Voters of Vigo County. We are so glad to have a candidate for County Clerk in Vigo County here with a special guest, Todd Nation, who is going to talk to us a little bit. And Todd, we're going to let you do an introduction, but you have to introduce, you have a special guest with you, it looks like.
Hi, this is my 7-month-old daughter, Penelope. Penelope's mom, my wife, Sarah, is teaching right now. So we expect her to come back soon and rescue me.
Fantastic. Well, we also should note that Todd Nation is running against Brad Newman, and he was unable to join us today. He did receive the invite, but he did not attend. So Todd is going to be with us today as we ask a few questions. So Todd, we're going to start out. If you could just take a couple minutes and just explain who you are, your experience here in Vigo County, and kind of what you hope to accomplish as county clerk if you are elected.
Well, first, who I am. I was born and raised in Terre Haute, and I went off to Purdue University after graduating from Terre Haute North in 1983. I left and went out into the world. I was a Peace Corps volunteer in Thailand for a couple of years, teaching English and agriculture. And then after I got out of Peace Corps, I worked in Indianapolis, I worked in Chicago, and then I moved back to Terre Haute for family stuff mostly in 1991. And that's one of the best decisions that I ever made. I've been back since 91. Some people here know me as the bookseller downtown. I had Book Nation for over 20 years, from 91 until 2012. And I'm also a small-time property developer and landlord with some property at 7th and Wabash and some other property in Farrington's Grove. What do I hope to accomplish on the as your Vigo County Clerk, should I be elected? Well, for me, the main thing about the clerk's office that interests me is running the elections. I am very interested in voting. I always have been, even before I entered public office. I was a precinct committee person for the Democrats for 12 of the last 20 years. And back then, when I was doing it, it was when I started, it was back when everybody voted in their neighborhoods. There were no vote centers. There wasn't much in the way of early voting. And the mechanics of voting have changed a lot since I first got involved. But now we're working in a different paradigm under a different set of rules. And I just want to help the voters of Vigo County navigate those rules and make it as easy as legally possible for everyone to participate in our elections.
Well, and thank you for that. That leads kind of to the first question, and this question does come from the League of Women Voters of Vigo County. With the absence of precinct voting locations, how can we best serve our community in selecting voting site locations, especially for our community members with fewer resources?
You know, voting site locations are an important consideration for the 3-person election board. Why does the county clerk's party matter? Well, the voting board, the Vigo County Election Board, like all county election boards through the state, is made of 3 people. 1 appointed Democrat, 1 appointed Republican, and then the elected county clerk. So the party from which the clerk comes has the majority and sets the tone for how inclusive our elections are and where the sites are. To get right to your question, I have always thought that it's important to have more central locations for voters to vote from. Why aren't we voting from Rives Hall in the middle of the city? Thanks. Okay, so there goes Penn. Why isn't Rives Hall a place where people can vote? We need inner city. We need to be where people actually are. So that's one of the main things that I would like to bring to this. When I look at the plan for early voting that was recently passed by our 3-person election board, I note that most of the sites are spread out at the edges of town. It's hard for people who already have challenges to get on public transportation and navigate their way out to the edge of town to cast a vote. We're not right in their neighborhoods anymore. We need to be closer to where they actually live.
Absolutely. And I just want to note what just happened was probably the most 2020 thing that we can see for a candidate forum. Your wife had to take your baby in a Zoom call for a Zoom public forum that's being hosted. It's just very interesting, the life that we're living right now in 2020 during the pandemic.
Things have changed. They are.
They absolutely have.
They continue to change. And that's another feature of why we need somebody who is giving their full attention to the clerk's job. I think that I could do a better job than what's being done right now by our current clerk, who holds down 2 full-time taxpayer-funded positions.
Well, I want to talk a little bit about your experience just in the Terre Haute area. Talk about those past experiences and how you feel that they'll help you if you're elected. And we're asking, the powers that be tell me that we need 1-minute responses.
1-minute response, okay.
Yes, sir.
Well, as a former Democratic precinct committee person, I've seen elections up close. I ran the polling place downtown for many years. And in doing that, I saw how Democrats and Republicans work together to ensure that elections are carried out right, have integrity. Everybody wants to have a good election that we understand has been run correctly. And that's the main thing that I want to do for the people of Vigo County.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk about that. You know, what are some of the strengths and weaknesses of how Vigo County elections currently happen?
Well, as I already mentioned, I think that we could do a better job of having centrally located polling places. That's one aspect of it. I do applaud the election board for adding a third 28-day site. I think that helps. And I know that they're trying. But again, I think that if you have somebody who is full-time and focused only on doing the clerk's job, I think that we will get better results for the people of Vigo County.
And the final question that I have for you, what actions do you suggest Vigo County can take to ensure safe, secure, and accessible voting in the future? And even during this pandemic, what are your stances on mail-in ballots and same-day voting registration? So two questions there. What can be done to make sure that voting remains safe and secure, especially during the pandemic? And then what are your thoughts on mail-in ballots and same-day voter registration?
Well, for mail-in ballots and same-day voter registration, those are things that the state legislature needs to take up and try to change. As you know, in the spring, our governor and secretary of state extended no excuse absentee voting to all Hoosiers, and more absentee or mail-in ballots, if you want to call them that, were cast than any time in Hoosier history. I think that's a permanent change that we need to make. We need to make it as easy as possible for people to vote every single time, not just during a pandemic. That's the main thing. But there's a lot of latitude that's given to the local election board on what we do. How do we make it safer? Well, one thing that we could do is we could provide a secure ballot drop for people who have filled in their absentee ballots, but for whatever reason, don't think that that ballot will make it all the way in time through the United States mail. Adding a ballot drop somewhere at the courthouse or the annex is something that we could do to make it easier for the people of Vigo County to vote. And other communities have done that. Tippecanoe County figured out how to do that. And I suspect that more counties will figure out how to do that in the face of the pandemic for November the 3rd.
All right. Well, Mr. Nation, thank you so much just for taking some time out on a busy Saturday. I know that you, like many other parents out there, are trying to finagle a lot of different things, especially during this pandemic. But thank you so much just for taking time and sharing your platform on behalf of the League of Women Voters of Vigo County and also the Vigo County Public Library. We really do appreciate just you taking some time to be with us today.
You're welcome, Rondrell. I really appreciate the work that the League of Women Voters continues to do, and the library. You know, so many events, so many of the things that we take for granted just are not happening anymore, even as part of our election cycle. And the fact that you all have figured out how to bring this to the voters of Vigo County is significant and laudable. I really thank you for doing it.
Very well said. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
You too, Rondrell. Bye-bye.
First off, we'd like to welcome both of you to the 2020 Candidate Forum put on by the League of Women Voters of Vigo County and also hosted by the Vigo County Public Library. This is just a really wonderful opportunity for voters in Vigo County to see the candidates and to hear their platforms, hear what they stand for, and ask a couple questions of you all. And so we have Jim Bramble, and we also have Rebecca Coleman, and this is for County Auditor. And we're just so glad that both of you all could join us. We're going to start things off by asking that you just take a couple minutes, 2 minutes, to introduce yourself and your platform, what you would like to see in your position as auditor. So we will start right now with Jim Bramble.
Well, one of the things I've got planned for next year, and I have included a request in the auditor's budget that's presently before the council, is that the county um, engage in a long-term financial and capital projects plan. And I think what that is we sit down and we take a look at what our revenue sources will be over the next 5 years and set priorities for projects and plans that we need to get done during that period. And I think next year is going to be a perfect time to do that because we're going to have 2 new commissioners come in, at least 2 new councilmen, and possibly as many as 5. And with that new group, I think we need to get them all to sit down together and decide, we're here now, what are we going to do? What are our priorities and what are our resources? And that type of planning will enable us to do that.
Right. All right. Well, thank you very much, Jim, for that. And now, Rebecca, if you could just take 2 minutes to introduce us to you and also some things that you would like to see for your platform as auditor.
All right. Hi, I'm Rebecca Coleman, and I would guess my platform is that I would like to see some very friendly service. I would like to see everyone be able to be welcome in the office. And I think I would like to see some more efficiency. Like to see a little bit of efficiency in the office. I want to get with the new commissioners, get with everyone, sit down, have a discussion on where we can maybe tighten things up a little bit, where we need to save on a little bit of money. I don't think we need to spend as much money as we are spending now, and see where we can just cut things down a little. I don't want to raise anything. I want to cut a few things from us. That's what I'd like to see. But the friendly service is something that I really want to see happen. Want to see some smiling faces.
All right. Well, thank you so much for that response.
Absolutely.
And let's jump right into a couple questions. And I think this is just a very interesting forum because a lot of times we don't necessarily get to hear a lot about the auditor's office. And so these are questions that were submitted by the public. The first one, details are the essence in accounting, and a small mistake can be very costly. How do you ensure that the county accounts are accurate? And we're asking for a minute response whenever we ask these questions. And we're going to start this question with Jim Bramble.
Well, there's a system of internal controls that are established by the State Board of Accounts that we follow. Primarily, the auditor's job is maintaining the general ledger. We post the entries on it. We don't write the checks and keep the records. Over in the treasurer's office, their job is to reconcile those records to the bank. So that system of checks and balances that are between the treasurer's office and the auditor's office, division of responsibilities that's included in that, is how the county system detects errors, enables us to correct them before they get out of line. It's a system prescribed by the state that allows us to maintain that accuracy.
Right. Thank you very much. And Rebecca, same question to you.
Can you repeat the question?
I absolutely can. Details are the essence in accounting, and a small mistake can be costly. So how do you ensure that the county accounts will be accurate?
My answer to that question would be you make sure you hire competent people. You always double check everything. And the most you can do is just keep everything in order and just make sure that you check and recheck everything. And the people have to be competent. They have to be competent at their job. That's the best you can do.
All right. Thank you for your answers, both of you. Moving on to the second question now. What previous work experiences have you had that would be an asset in serving as Vigo County Auditor? And this time, Rebecca, we're going to start with you.
I am a business owner, so I do very much run a business, and I'm very much dealing with the public every day. I deal with the public every day, all day. I deal with money every day, all day. I am not a CPA. It is not a requirement for the job, but that is my experience. I've been with the public. I've been a business owner for a very long time.
All right. Thank you very much, Rebecca. And
Absolutely.
Jim?
Well, I guess I'll go down my resume. I graduated from Indiana State University in accounting in 1979. I went to work for an accounting firm here in Terre Haute for a number of years. I passed the CPA exam and am a CPA. I then went to work for the Indiana State Board of Accounts and served as district supervisor for them for about 12 or 13 years. That's the agency that audits and financial statements and compliance with laws and such for local governments in Indiana, including the county and the county auditor's office. After I left there, I started my own accounting business. And in 2000, Judy Anderson, who was the auditor then, was elected mayor and had 1 year left to serve on her term. And the Democratic caucus appointed me to fill out the rest of her term, and I subsequently had 2 more terms, 8 years as auditor myself. And with term limits, I left. 4 years later, I was elected treasurer for 4 years. And 3.5 years ago, or 4 years ago, I guess, I was elected auditor again and have returned to the auditor's office.
All right. Thank you very much. Well, moving on quickly with the last question that we have for both of you today. With an expected reduction of tax revenue associated with the current health crisis, which county services or planned projects do you believe will be most affected? And for this one, we're going to start with Jim Bramble.
I think the ones that are have taken the biggest hit is the county tourism department. The hotel occupancy has been way down all summer long. The highway department will take some hit because they're funded by gasoline taxes, and for a period of time this summer, gasoline sales were down, so our distributions for highway money and local road and street money were down. But I think they're going to come back. If there turn out to be some reductions in income taxes or some of the sources that fund our, general fund and other the services that fund provides, I think we have a very healthy cash balance, and I think we'll be able to weather any storm that may come in the next year. I don't think it's not going to be in 2021 because the way our funding works, they're 2 years behind. If we do see some reduction in revenue, it'll be in 2022. But we should be good for next year, I believe.
All right. Thank you very much for your response. And final response to that question, Rebecca Coleman.
I do believe that he is right on the tourism. I think the tourism is going to that's going to take a hit, and it'll probably be over the next 2 years. Tourism is not going to be, it's not good now. It's not good at all. Our restaurants aren't good. People aren't coming out and about. They're not where they're supposed to be at this point. Restaurants are suffering. There are a lot of businesses in Terre Haute that are not getting the revenue that they're used to getting. Even the gas stations aren't getting the revenue that they're used to getting. The economy in Terre Haute is not good right now. I, as a business owner, can tell you that. I mean, they're doing okay. They're hanging in. They're hanging in there. Some of them have closed and are going to close. That's heartbreaking for me. I don't like to see a business owner have to close, but I think some of the projects and things that aren't going to happen will be anything that is frivolous that we didn't have to do. Anything that we didn't have to do for structure wise or things like that. Those are the things that we may have to cut back on a little bit. Other than that, I think we'll be fine. I think we've made it through pretty good in this area.
Well, obviously, there's a lot more that we could discuss and that we could get into, but unfortunately, our time is up right now. But just on behalf of the Vigo County League of Women Voters and also the Vigo County Public Library, I just want to thank both of you for coming out and just talking a little bit about yourselves and what your plans are for the future of Vigo County in terms of the auditor's office. And we just appreciate you coming out today and wish you the best and have a great day.
Thanks, Rondrell. Appreciate the opportunity.
Have a great day, honey.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
Welcome to the 2020 Candidate Forum that is hosted by the League of Women Voters of Vigo County and also the Vigo County Public Library. And you are running for treasurer here in Vigo County, Nancy Alsop. So first things first, Nancy, if you could just take 2 minutes and just introduce yourself to the voters out there, people who may not know you, and talk about some of the things that you want to see in the treasurer's office and just some of the things on your platform.
Okay. Well, as you said, my name is Nancy Alsop. Hi, everyone. And I am currently your full-time Vigo County treasurer. I have been Vigo County all my life, and I have been married for 44 years. I have 2 children and a great-granddaughter on the way. I'm excited about that. I am a full-time treasurer, and the main responsibilities of the county treasurer is to collect the property taxes and invest all the monies. Okay. And over the past 3.5 years, I have made improvements and implemented programs to fulfill these responsibilities. Okay, to serve the taxpayers more efficiently and quickly, I installed the state-of-the-art currency counting machine that also detects counterfeit bills to move the lines quicker. Also, a new system at no cost to the county has been put into place to provide a variety of options for the taxpayers to conveniently pay online and over the phone with a credit card, debit card, and an e-check. And to collect delinquent property taxes, I've implemented the program TREX. This program benefited the county by $70,000 in 1 year. I invested all the county money, which has earned over $5 million in interest for the county, and I'm proud of that. I have always been here to serve the citizens of Vigo County, even as the global pandemic evolved. The annex was closed and my staff was sent home for a short time, but I continued to work every day. In closing, I would like to continue serving as your taxpayer of Vigo. In closing, I would like to continue serving the taxpayers of Vigo County as your full-time county treasurer, and I am grateful for the past support you have given me and would appreciate your vote in November. Thank you.
Very well said. Thank you very much for that. We're going to hop in. I've just got 3 questions for you.
Okay.
Very straightforward questions, and you touched on a lot of them, but the first one is, what previous work experiences do you have that would be an asset in serving as Vigo County treasurer? And we ask that you take about 1 minute to answer these questions.
Okay. Well, previously, before I become a treasurer, I was the recorder for 8 years, which helped me see how the county was run. And that was good. And then my husband had his business for 22 years, and I always kept the books and everything. And I took some business classes at Ivy Tech. And I feel like I've always wanted to work for a bank, but wow, this is a big bank.
You could say that. You could say that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, with the next question, and you touched on this, like I said a little bit earlier, with an impact, or what impact do you think that the pandemic will have on the county's investments and just overall?
Well, like I said, till now, 3.5 years, I've invested the money and we've made over 5 million. So I feel like we're at a healthy stand, we got a healthy fund there. So, but everybody's hurting. I know that, especially the tourism departments and that, so, but I think we'll be fine. I really do for right now. And I feel sorry for all the business owners. I really do, because I know they're taking a hit.
Sure, for sure, for sure. Last question. Told you this would be quick. And just from a generic standpoint, what are the most important aspects of the job in this county?
I feel, to me, it's keeping everything balanced. That's a job to do, especially if we get new hires, that's not used to the job. It affects my job if they hire new people in the auditor's office. And sometimes it's like hunting a needle in a haystack. But I mean, we do great. I've got a great staff and good people. And that's the main thing to me, is just keeping everything balanced. So.
And everything balanced, for sure. Well, I just wanted to take time on behalf of the League of Women Voters of Vigo County and also the Vigo County Public Library to thank you for talking during this forum. We so rarely get to hear from you. We so rarely, unless there's some sort of major problem or issue or something where, we're asking questions, but just to talk about who you are and to talk about the job that you're doing, the voters of Vigo County definitely appreciate it. I certainly appreciate it. So thank you for stopping by today.
Well, thank you very much. Thanks, Rondrell.
You have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
So, welcome to the 2020 Candidate Forum put on by the Vigo County League of Women Voters and also the Vigo County Public Library. And Stacy Todd joins us now, and she is running for Vigo County Recorder. So, Stacy, first of all, thank you for joining us. Thank you for being here today. And secondly, just if you could take 2 minutes and just talk about yourself. Tell us who you are and, some of the things that you'd like to see in your platform.
Okay. I've worked for Vigo County government for 23 years. I started out as a chief deputy, or I started out as a clerk, I'm sorry, then a chief deputy. I love my job. It's a great job. It's preserving records. We have brought deeds to e-filing. We have come a long way in the recorder's office. And during the pandemic, it's been really hard, but we have persevered and moved forward. I have 4 children. I have a husband. 9 grandchildren. Vigo County, I've been a resident here all my life. My family had restaurants, Grandma Joy's, Joy's Restaurant. I love to cook on the other side of me, but I'm just a public servant to the people.
Fantastic, fantastic. Thank you for sharing all of that information with us. Let's hop into some questions, and pretty straightforward, and we ask that you take no more than a minute or so to answer, if you can. First question, what previous work experiences do you have that would be an asset while serving as Vigo County Recorder?
Well, like I said before, I was hired in as a clerk. I know the records. I know the process of the records. I know the recording, how to record a document, what it takes to process the document, what you have to do to index the document, the legal on a document. I also know that you hold your document for 2 weeks, you mail it back to your customer. You, at the end of the day, you're balancing, you have to balance every day. There's a lot of money that goes through the recorder's office.
Absolutely. Well, and you're kind of touching on it here, but this is the next question. What qualities do you think are most important for a county recorder to have?
You have to be a people person. In life, you have so many people that come to your counter that want to do a homemade deed or a quick claim deed. You have to be there for the people, to tell them, it's not a good idea to do a homemade deed, but a lot of people don't have a lot of money and they think it costs a lot of money to have an attorney or someone prepare this for you. But you're there for them, to give them the proper documentation, their mortgage, their deed that they're asking for.
Well, the final question, the pandemic has impacted everything and everyone all across the board. What are some of the challenges that you foresee and have seen in this specific office with the pandemic?
Rondrell, we weren't allowed, you couldn't be closed. The annex was closed, but we couldn't be closed. So we had to work from day one. So I and my staff worked, and we would have to go out, get the documents, bring them in for the title searchers, for the banks, because they're not closed. We have done more business. I wanted to make sure I had this right. In 2019, from March to now, we did 7,674 documents. Okay. Now, in 2020, during this pandemic, we have done from March to now 9,027 documents. It has not slowed down. We have been slammed. And when you have the building closed, it makes it so hard, but you have to keep everybody safe. But my office, we've worked through it. We've told the people, you come, we will mask up, come out, get the documents, record them, and move on.
Wow. Yeah, that's a heavy workload.
Yeah.
And we could talk a lot more about this. Unfortunately, our time is up. But Stacey, I just wanted to tell you on behalf of the League of Women Voters and also the Vigo County Public Library, I really appreciate you coming out and just talking about what you do, what you hope to see in this office. We don't get a chance often to talk to you and just talk about the effort that has been put into this office. And so I think it's important for the voters to know all aspects of these county offices. So it really means a great deal that you would come out and speak to us today. So we really appreciate it.
I appreciate you doing this and the women's vote. I really do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, hope you have a great day. Hopefully you get some time off and talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Take care. All right, we want to welcome you to the 2020 Candidate Forum put on by the League of Women Voters of Vigo County and also the Vigo County Public Library. We have Dr. Janie Myers, who is running for coroner, and we do want to make it known that there are other candidates in this race. The League of Women Voters did reach out as well, and Dr. Janie Myers responded with the affirmative to come, so we appreciate her being here today to speak with us just about this race. If you could, just talk a little bit, take 2 minutes if you can, about yourself and what your platform is, what you'd like to see in this office of coroner.
Well, as you know, I am the only physician running, and my role is to make sure that I use my 20 years of medical experience to make sure no one gets away with murder. I want to make sure that with these things that we are using medical professionals to make medical decisions. As a surgeon, I make sure I get the most accurate information possible. I look at the x-rays, I look at the labs, I look at the examination to make the most accurate diagnosis. I plan to use these skills and other skills to make sure as a Vigo County coroner that I do that as well. So that's one of the roles I want to do. I want to make sure that people know what they need and make sure that the dead are treated with dignity, love, and respect, and do it all in a timely manner. I truly believe that the residents of Vigo County need a doctor in their corner, someone to make sure that things are done correctly.
Well, let's talk about that. As we know that it is not a requirement to have a
No.
doctor degree to be coroner in Vigo County. Why is it such an advantage, or why do you feel like it is or it should be a requirement?
Well, 50% of deaths are natural. So you kind of need to know what natural is over anything else, because what you don't want to have is someone saying that they think that this is something that could be done wrong, and you're doing unwilling and unwanted autopsies, which is a detriment to the taxpayers. So having that medical knowledge is something I already have. I don't have to look it up. I don't have to, it's something that you can just learn. So it saves a lot of time and effort. And ever since Dr. Kors started, I think it's been a doctor for the last 32 years, our coroner's office has been rated the best in the state because we are very efficient and we know what we're doing. And I do believe that that is essential to have that information and medical knowledge to make these decisions on people.
All right, and going through these questions, I just want to remind these are questions coming in from the public, that
No problem.
they don't get a chance to ask because they don't normally get to see it often, and that's why this forum is so important. But as coroner, you're seeing death in our county firsthand. How will you use your position and knowledge to inform the community and local officials of the issues the county faces? And they say, for example, drug overdoses, violence, and operating a vehicle while under the influence.
Well, you got the right person, because I believe in communication. I believe in transparency. I believe this is all a team approach. Like I plan to work closely with the first responders and make sure that that information that they give to me is given in a timely manner. So one of my roles is to basically make sure that I keep in constant communication with the public and make sure they know what actually is happening and what is transpiring. And I want to make sure, and just to add on that question, that there is someone that's there that can actually stand by that diagnosis and be comfortable with that diagnosis because they know they have used medical knowledge to make that decision.
Last question that I have for you. You've talked about your medical experience. Outside of your medical knowledge and know-how, are there qualifications or experiences or background portions that you feel that help you to qualify for this position?
Most definitely. Medical experience is a big part of it, but death investigation is a delicate process. It's a process that includes people that are living and people that are dead. That is just one part of the office. And as you just elicited before with the question you asked, is communication. So yes, you want to make sure that you have the right diagnosis for death, but the second part of the office is to make sure that you are communicating effectively, because some people are waiting on that information so they can get insurances. They need to know what's going on. You need a proven leadership skills, because this is a team approach, meaning that you have the deputy coroners, you have the first responders, you also have, right now we have Donna in the office, but you have to put all that information together. So leadership, communication, I cannot stress, if someone is not compassionate or cares, you want to make sure that all that information and all that stuff is done at the same time. So all that stuff rolls in together. So, but medical knowledge base is number one.
All right. And we do want to reiterate that we reached out to the League of Women Voters, reached out to other candidates running for this race, and Dr. Janie Myers was the one who responded and agreed to talk to us today. So for that reason, we just really, really appreciate, on behalf of the League of Women Voters and also the Vigo County Public Library, I really appreciate you stopping by and talking to us. The voters don't often get a chance to see the candidates face to face before they actually vote in the election. So what you're doing is simply very, very important. So thank you for stopping by today.
Hopefully the only physician running. Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. You have a great day. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye.
Well, welcome to the 2020 Candidate Forum put on by the Vigo County League of Women Voters and also the Vigo County Public Library. And we're so glad to have right now candidates for Vigo County Commissioner here. And this is just an opportunity for them to speak about who they are, their platforms, and answer some questions from the public. and we're going to do that today. So, gentlemen, thank you all for being here with us today. So glad to have you.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to start with 2-minute opening comments, and we're asking that you keep it to 2 minutes. And we just want you to explain who you are, introduce yourself to voters who may not know you, and also your platform. What are some of the things that you really would like to see in the office of Vigo County Commissioner? And we're going to start this, we're going in alphabetical order. So we're going to start this with Jeff Fisher.
Okay, thank you. Well, first of all, I want to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this event. You know, we're going through some really trying times right now, and we need to venture out on new ideas on doing things. And this is really unique and appreciative. You know, we have to take advantage of these situations where we can get our message out and talk about issues and talk about our platform. And we absolutely need to take advantage of these events. So with that said, my name is Jeff Fisher. Most of you know me as the fire chief for the City of Terre Haute Fire Department. That's where I gained a lot of my experience in training and knowledge of county and city government. I'm married to my wife, Angel, of 37 years. We have 2 kids. My son, Bill, is an environmental engineer and works at North American Lighting, an IU graduate. My daughter, Heather, she works for the Labor Union. She attended Purdue and ISU, and she's married to a great guy by the name of Nick Patterson. They just celebrated their 1-year anniversary. So they were not able to go to, you know, very many trips to celebrate that, but, you know, they're doing what they can. I am a man of a few words. I don't like to ramble on. I don't give essay answers. I give quiz answers. So this 20 minutes might be right around the time period. But anyway, I have built relationships and communications with several people around the state and the country in my position. And I feel this will benefit me and the community if elected your commissioner. I'm running for commissioner in District 3. That's the section right down the middle, from north to south, from Park County to Sullivan County. I want to bring trust, communication, and marketing back to our community, back to our county. We're a great place, it's a great community, and people know where we are, and people want to come here. We need to bring things for them to do while we're here. And there's a lot of great things in the works. So that's what I want to do, bring the trust and communication back to county government. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now, again, 2-minute introduction from Pat Goodwin.
Thank you, Rondrell, and thank you to the League of Women Voters and the library for putting on this event. My name is Pat Goodwin. I'm running for commissioner in District 2. I'm a Terre Haute, Vigo County native, married to my wife, Marty Livengood Goodwin. We've been married for just over 25 years. We've got 4 kids ranging in age from 21 to 15. The oldest 2 are at Indiana University and the youngest 2 are at Terre Haute North. My platform is pretty simple, and it's a 3-legged platform to get us going again. And that is, first of all, we need to modernize local government. If we can bring the best practices that people are using around the country and find other ways to enhance our services, it will reduce cost and make local government more effective. Secondly, I want to end the cronyism and the good old boy system in Vigo County. I want people to be hired for county government based on their qualifications, not on who they know. I want boards and committees to have the most qualified people we can find. And I want all citizens to feel like they'll be treated fairly no matter who they know in local government. If we can do those 2 things, then it'll open up a lot of opportunity for us to concentrate on some new things. And the big one that I want to concentrate on is community health. That's not just physical health, but it's also mental health. That includes dealing with the issues in this county like drug and alcohol addiction, homelessness, and mental health. I look forward to having the opportunity to do that, and I thank you for allowing me to be here this morning.
All right, thank you very much, Pat, for that. And finally, last candidate to speak, Chris Schweitzer.
All right, good morning, guys. Nice to see you again, especially after yesterday. That was a great forum that we had. Thanks to the League of Women Voters and the library for having this. I just want to preface this message with not in a suit and tie because I'm camping with my family about an hour and a half away from Terre Haute. I'm also using internet off of the guard shack, of which they allowed me to use because there is no internet here. So if I lose you or something happens and I can't get back to connected, I'm sorry about that, but I wanted to make the effort to try to be here.
Glad we had you.
My name is Chris Schweitzer, and I'm 32 years old. Been married to my wife Jennifer for going on 7 years now. We have 2 children, Emma, which is 7, and Jet, which is 4. Emma goes to school at Sugar Creek Consolidated, and my wife just started a career in education at Terre Haute South. Most of you know me by now. I've ran 2 races, school board in 14, which I got beat tremendously, sucked it up, entered politics again in 18 and beat a 2-term incumbent. And now I'm on my 19th month as a county councilman. Everybody pretty well knows my platform. I'm real pro-business, higher education here in our community. I would love to get them involved a heck of a lot more than what they are now. Cut down some walls, tear down some walls between higher education and Vigo County to get our higher ed readily involved for workforce development and things like that in our community. I'm a very vocal leader, aggressive leader. I'm very vocal on social media. I ask a ton of questions to the point to where it gets on people's nerves. I've been involved in a lot of committees and a lot of different projects, and we're just getting started. So I look forward to a great, healthy debate today, and I'm appreciative of all of you guys being here. So thank you.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Chris, and thank you, everybody, for your introductory statements. We also want to confirm that we did reach out to all of the candidates for Vigo County Commissioner, and the 3 who you see right now are the ones who responded. So we're just so glad that you all could be out today. We're going to go into some questions right now, and these are questions that have been submitted by the community, and we're asking that you take 1 minute at most to respond to these questions. What I've been doing before in previous forums, I've been saying that when you see me smile big, that's kind of a cue to stop talking if you can. And we'll hopefully be okay with that, as opposed to me having to step in and interrupt. I don't want to have to do that. And also, as we know, with any forum or with any conversation, as always, we ask that everything be kept respectful, and I believe that we will be, and we'll be all right with that. So we're going to hop right in. And we're going to start with the first question, which actually does come from the League of Women Voters of Vigo County. And the question is, in getting a job, the practice is often not what you know, but who you know. Many times job positions can be advertised, but the candidates are already decided upon. How can you use your role in this position to create a culture in our county government that encourages broadening the net and thus enhancing diversity in our county positions? And we're going to throw that question first to Jeff Fisher.
Okay, well, thank you. That is a good question. I can attest to the Terre Haute Fire Department. When we do our hiring, we have a merit board. So it takes all the politics and all who you know out of it. So we need programs like that in county government when it comes to the hiring. It should be hired off of your experience and not who you know. Now, give it. There's a lot of people out there who you know have the great experience and the talent to do these jobs. And that should not be held against the person. But we need systems set in place, like a merit system, where it's taken out of the candidate's hands, it's taken out of who you know's hands, and put into a program like that. That's definitely the way, in the right way, and the honest way to hire someone, offer their merits, not who they know. That was a great question.
All right, thank you very much. And now to you, Pat Goodwin, that same question.
Well, I mentioned the need to end that sort of patronage system that we sometimes have here in Vigo County in government, in selecting people for jobs. It's outside county government as well, but county government can set a great example. And one of the ways that we need to do that is really empowering the Human Resources Department of county government to be able to do that hiring in a way that casts the widest possible net, to know that they'll never be pressured if a candidate is brought to them from, for example, an existing elected official, that they shouldn't feel any undue pressure to see that that resume rises to the top of the stack, and that, you know, we elected officials, if I'm elected, really shouldn't be directly involved in that hiring process. I think that we need to make a better effort in reaching out to the marginalized parts of the community so that we can cast that wider net. County government is underrepresented by minorities right now. I think we can do better on that. But I think right now the way that we're advertising and getting the word about those positions out could be improved. So I just like to see us be a little bit more creative about how we reach out and try to find new faces to apply for jobs in county government.
All right. Thank you very much, Pat. And finally, Chris Schweitzer.
So specific commissioner duties are to make appointments by the commissioners, and the council also has duties to make appointments. So it falls on the commissioner of who they decide to appoint to that duty for the hiring process, especially for a full board. Some of those appointments also comes from the mayor's office, some comes from the city council. So the specific request that I believe Mr. Goodwin's talking about comes from, I believe Mr. Nasser's request or something like that, but we have to remember that there were Democrats and Republicans who could have stopped that right there at that point. So the cronyism that he's speaking of should have stopped before that even happened. These are Democrats and Republicans alike. We have to remove the Democrat and Republican name away from hiring people, away from looking at, moving the resumes to the top and things like that. There are plenty of people that are applying for jobs in the county, and those people are getting hired, and it doesn't matter what their race is or things like that. I mean, we are doing better as a county, and I get to see that personally every council meeting, every committee meeting, talking to department heads and figuring out what's going on. So there are certainly ways to improve, but that's not just a process that happens overnight, especially with human resources. You have to rewrite the whole thing, and as a commissioner, that's something I plan on doing. So certainly everything can be improved. Everything can be improved in life, period, and we're all working on that. So that's a great question, Rondrell. Thanks for asking.
All right. Well, and again, the question comes from the public, so that's the public to them. Mr. Goodwin, and I do want to acknowledge before we get back into any sort of a back and forth, this is not a debate, this is a forum. And so we will kind of, based on what's happening in the specific situation, allow for some responses, but they will be limited. And we will try as best as we can to continue on with our questions. So, but yes, Mr. Goodwin, briefly.
I just want to clarify, since I was mentioned, I'm not speaking of any one specific instance. I wish there were just one specific instance. It's a systemic problem in the past in county government, and I think it's just something that we need to work a lot on. Not in one area, but all around.
All right. Thank you very much. All right, let's move on now to the next question. This question says, and again from the public, when you get elected, what projects would you be pushing for to improve the county that are not in the Chamber of Commerce CU in Terre Haute 2025 community plan? And for this question, we will start with Mr. Goodwin.
Well, I've mentioned the part of my platform is improving community health. Now, there are some parts of that chamber plan that do discuss outdoor recreation opportunities, and I'm very strongly in support of that. We know there are some county initiatives starting now with regard to providing more assistance for mental health and addiction issues in our community. I see it as a very holistic approach, and addressing public safety or public health will also be addressing public safety. We know that the vast majority of responses to 911 calls that law enforcement officials are faced with, there is a case of where there's mental health, drug addiction, alcohol are part of the issue at hand when they're responding. So I am always a person who says an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So I'd like to see us focus more on that prevention, and I think it has the potential to reduce the burden on our public safety departments and also free up more money to be able to do other things with.
Thank you very much, Mr. Goodwin. And now, Mr. Schweitzer.
Can you ask the question again, Rondrell?
I can. It says, when you get elected, or if you get elected, what projects would you be pushing for to improve the county that are not in the Chamber of Commerce CU in Terre Haute 2025 community plan?
Okay, so I have a real kind of vague, simple day one answer, and that's working directly with Sheriff Plassey to get the Wabash Valley Recovery Alliance inside the jail that we are building. and also inside to the old jail right now to make sure folks have a direct interaction with somebody in the recovery community to get them the help they need. That is the most basic, simplest way to start to recover from addiction, alcoholism, mental health in this community. It's to go face to face with a person who's already battled it, who is getting over it, and who can improve the lives of each other directly. That's probably my number one thing, because developing or helping to rehabilitate a human who has suffered from some type of a disease will not only make our community better, but our workforce better and everything better in our community. So that's about it.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Fisher?
Yes, both candidates there have great answers for this question. I too, as a person firsthand, knows the effects of mental health and addiction in family, on both sides of my family. This has got to be a priority, to work with services to help our addicted people in the community. Again, we have a new jail being built, a new correctional facility, and there should be space in there for these services. Now, I know people are going to get locked up for whatever reason, and they should not just be sitting in jail and not getting the help they need. We definitely need to work towards these programs and fund these programs and make sure they work for all, and not just the wealthy and the well-known, but for everybody. I volunteer on Fridays at a food pantry, and I see firsthand the struggles that the people in our community have. So we need to work towards these services and make sure our citizens, our community people, definitely have the needs and the resources they have to help and better themselves. So definitely we need to work in that area to make sure that our community is rising above and getting the help that we need. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Fisher. All right, the next question, we're going to start with you, Mr. Schweitzer, and it is, quality of life is very important and a way to keep our community happy and healthy, but it's also a great way to draw new business into our county. What ideas do you have to improve the quality of life here in Vigo County?
Well, Vigo County still needs to remain a small business first community, tourism second, economic development third. As a good vocal leader, you can develop small business by just being a good leader and helping them in any way. Second would come tourism, and we're in a unique situation where we're getting a casino and a convention center, which should be a drastic tourism change, should bring a lot of people into our community. I would love for those projects to get off the ground, to see what our revenue stream will be from those projects before entering into what I wish I could see for the community at this point. Of course, everybody wants the water parks and the pools and the things like that. And the county is fiscally sound to be able to probably do a project like that. But we would welcome a more private-public partnership with something like that, or I would personally. I'm just so extremely happy about the impact of potentially having the F-35 jets here, the casino, and the convention center, what that's going to do for our community. So to dive into something right now, of course, personally, I would love to see all these projects take off, but I don't think we're at a point in our time right now to make that stuff happen until after these projects get going.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Fisher, same question.
Okay. Would you repeat the question, Rondrell?
Absolutely can. What ideas do you have to improve the quality of life here in Vigo County?
Okay. Well, as mentioned by Mr. Schweitzer, we do have a lot of good things coming to our area. The convention center, the casino. I know that Mr. Drake from Show Me's was working on a venue down along the river to bring in concerts and outside venues. Unfortunately, things beyond his control, that was not able to happen this year. And I think he had something like 6 to 8 concerts scheduled for this venue. Hopefully we'll see that happen next year. This coronavirus has really put a hamper on a lot of things, but we have a lot of things coming here. I do believe that we could get a water park here. It's been talked about for years, and I believe it's something we can happen. But what we have now, we have to make sure it gets built, gets funded, and gets in operational. We have a convention center coming. It's going to have one of the best museums of one, I think, the greatest basketball players in our era, in the United States and in the world, Larry Bird. So there's going to be people coming to visit Terre Haute. People know about Terre Haute. I hear about Terre Haute when I do my travels and go to my meetings outside of the city. So we have a lot of things coming, and we just need to make sure that these things are funded and built and managed and do the things they're supposed to do to bring our people to our community. We bring people here, revenue's coming in, and we're going to build up and we'll do great. You're smiling, so I'll stop.
That's what that smile means. Thank you so much, Mr. Fisher. And now finally to you, Mr. Goodwin, same question.
Study after study has shown that for mid-sized communities like ours, quality of life is the #1 economic development tool that you have. We have a great opportunity here because we are a mid-sized community, and I think that's an asset. That means that we have amenities, we have lots of quality of life, but we're not so big that we have some of the problems that bigger cities are faced with. I have long been a proponent of trying to market ourselves as, and set a goal as, the outdoor recreation capital of the Midwest. And we already have a lot of that in place with the cross-country facility, the beginnings of the development of the riverfront, and many other assets. I would like to see us put more of our economic development income tax money towards the development of the riverfront and of the wetlands, and really see that project take off. A series of trails that hub and spoke off of that riverfront area, and I believe that will be our best economic development tool.
Fantastic, fantastic. Thank you so much for those responses to those questions. Next question, and this one, I believe we're back to Mr. Fisher starting things out. Currently, much of the response homelessness pertains to the township level and civic organizations, but given the large homeless population, what can you in your county elected position do to advocate increased services and coordinate with other officials and agencies to aid our community members? We're talking about homelessness here.
Right, right. And like I said in my previous answer, I work with the homeless on Friday afternoons at a food bank. There's several agencies around our community that deal with this problem. And I know we have a current commissioner that deals with the homeless also. So it is a problem in our community. And we cannot take care of this problem. We cannot cure this problem unless we have communication with other community leaders and resources around our area. It needs to be brought to the spotlight. A lot of these people have challenges for whatever reason. So we need to make sure that these people have the services available to them to get the help they need. Communication, working together, we can do this. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Fisher. Mr. Goodwin, same question.
I do support the building or the development of a homeless shelter, but I'd like for it to be more than a homeless shelter. I'd like for it to be a resource center. The idea here is not just to provide a place for homeless people to go, but a place for them to help get themselves back on their feet. That means resources for mental health. It means the opportunity to get some counseling, to get put into programs for drug addiction and alcohol addiction, and to be able to do that at a low cost or no cost if possible. If we don't solve these problems, a lot of the same people are going to end up coming back in through the system, oftentimes ending up in our jail, causing more overcrowding problems in the current jail. So again, this is one of those things where we start at the beginning, at the root of the problem. We can take care of a lot of the symptoms that we see at the tail end.
Thank you very much, Mr. Goodwin. Finally, Mr. Schweitzer. Same
So
question.
as commissioner, you don't take it upon yourself as just being one person to try to solve the whole community's problems. You reach out for state help, you reach out for federal help, you work with your state legislation to try to get you some monetary funds to get you some more help. And again, here we are in a situation of building a state-of-the-art correctional facility or jail where you can put people in that building to directly spearhead them from going back out in the community without the resources they have or that they can get available by someone being in that jail, to welcome them. And I say welcome them because they're coming back to jail for whatever reason, but they've probably suffered from mental health, addiction, alcoholism, been abused, whatever situation they're in. If you have somebody there as soon as they enter that jail and they can open up and talk to them, maybe from social services, maybe from Mental Health America, maybe a state funded program, you can get those people the help immediately as they get there. And then once they are released, they're back into the community with at least some hope that things can get better for them. So of course, we all are aware of the homeless situation in Terre Haute and Vigo County, but we're aware of the homeless situation in all of America. So it's not just us with this problem, but we have to reach out for federal and state help. And I think we can make that happen with the great senators we have in our community.
Thank you all for your answers to that question. Moving right along, and we will start with Mr. Goodwin for this question. What is one area of the budget that you feel is overfunded, and what is one area of the budget that you feel is underfunded?
Well, we're building too expensive of a jail, and that's really the number one area, and that's a huge burden then on the opportunities to do other things with that money. Now, the tax has been passed. There is a LOAT now that will pay for that jail, but a big chunk of that LOAT tax is going to be paying for that jail for the next 20 years. That jail could have been built in phases. There was a concept that eventually it would need 500 beds, but there wasn't any concept that they needed the 500 beds right away. We could have done this in phases, paid for what we needed, and left ourselves quite a bit more room to use those funds for other purposes. One other purpose could be better funding to the township fire departments, which I think did not get enough benefit out of this most recent tax increase.
All right, thank you, Mr. Goodwin. Mr. Schweitzer, same question.
The tax increases have specific purposes. So what the tax increases were for go to those specific purposes. The jail is one of them. So you're not actually taking money from the budget to fund that. You're using taxpayer dollars, which is unfortunate. I was against that tax in 18. I wasn't on the council in 18, but I won in 19 and have taken over from there. One of the most underfunded budgets is, I would say, Parks and Rec. We have one of the best bike parks in the whole world, and we're fighting right now to get them a full-time position, an underfunded budget. Of course, you know, our biggest budget is the jail. I mean, there's just nothing we can do about that besides spearheading people at the point of entry to get them from stop coming to jail and getting them the help they need. If you decrease that population, you decrease the expenses, you decrease from having to put people out of county and pay for that all day. So, you know, unfortunately, the jail is the highest cost, and it probably will be for the next 2 or 3 years until we figure out a way. And I want to mention myself, you know, the youth of trying to find a way and interacting with our colleges and things like that, and interacting with the younger people. I think I have a distinct ability, especially with young social workers coming out of ISU, to work with them in our jail and in Mental Health America and other things like that to get people the help they need. So underfunded Parks and Rec, overfunded jail, but we're at a point of no return.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Schweitzer. And finally, to answer this question, Mr. Fisher.
Well, in my line of work, I manage 7 budgets, $17.4 million. I don't think you can be over budget in an area. Yeah, the jail is got a lot of money going towards the building that building and the services going in there. You cannot do without public safety. You cannot do without a facility to which people get in trouble, go to jail. You need these services. Under budget, yeah, I believe our parks and recreation, you can never do enough for these. If you don't have good parks and recreations, people are not going to utilize them. So we need to increase the budgeting for our parks and recreation. People just need to, you know, this year has proven that you need to get out more in areas where social distancing, and our parks and recreation is a perfect place for that. So I think the Parks and Recreation is under budgeted. But as far as over budgeted, you can never be over budgeted as long as the funds are there.
All right, thank you very much. Believe it or not, we're down to our last question, and we have been zooming right through these. Mr. Schweitzer, we start with you to answer our last question, and that is, with the job loss comes loss of income tax. People are not spending as much money, so sales taxes are down. Other types of fees and taxes are taking a hit. Even property taxes could be affected by non-payments. With less money, officials must prioritize spending and budget scrutinized very carefully. How will you determine priorities for spending, Mr. Schweitzer?
That's a good question. I kind of spoke about this yesterday at the forum, and the specific duties of a commissioner. You always look at your taxation, your budgets, your payroll, and your finances. And once you get that figured out as you move forward, then you can go down to what you figure is most important. So you have to request to the council what you want your budget to be. They give you your budget, then you can decide what to do from there. To prioritize those things, in our community, of course, the mental health and the drug addiction and the workforce. That's where I would go first. Second, I would try to move things into inclusion, diversity, and cultural diversity. And then third, I would probably move down to, and I mentioned those things first because that's something that's hands-on right now that we can do. But third, I would probably include economic development. Both candidates to the left and right of me have said marketing, and that is something deeply that we could do and spend a good chunk of money on to market ourselves to other Midwest towns, especially in Ohio, Kentucky, and Illinois, Michigan, and try to get them to locate at least distribution centers, warehouses, and things like that in our community. That then will bring in jobs, and hopefully we'll have the workforce readily available for those jobs.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Schweitzer. And Mr. Fisher.
Okay, Rondrell, would you repeat, please?
I will, and I'll kind of cut to the chase of it because it's kind of a lengthy question, but basically talking about with job loss comes the loss of income tax and people aren't spending as much, and even property taxes could be affected by non-payments. How will you determine priorities for spending with the loss of this revenue?
Good question. You got to have data. You got to have your research, do your homework in these areas. There's one good thing about with the county that the city doesn't have. There's 3 commissioners, and you can always bounce off ideas off the other 2 commissioners when it comes to these very important ideas and prioritizing. So to give you a direct answer to that, it's really hard because some of my ideas may not be the same as the other 2 commissioners. So you definitely have to gather all your data and information and then bounce it off your team. I'm a team player, and I look forward to working with the other 2 commissioners. So bounce those ideas off the other 2 commissioners, come up with a plan, and go from there. But you got to have your data, you got to have your research, and you got to do your homework so you can prioritize.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Fisher. And the last word on the last question goes to Mr. Goodwin.
When you're prioritizing spending because of lower revenue, the first priority is to just tighten your belt and spend less everywhere that you're able. So you look at things like when a position becomes vacant, do you have to rehire that position, or are there others in the organization who can fill in those roles? I've mentioned modernization. That always comes with some savings. You hope that in addition to providing better services, you can do it at a lower cost. So usually there's not a silver bullet when you're short in revenue. It's not one thing, it's 1,000 small things. So we're going to need to tighten our belt. We know the revenue is going to be down for a while, but we can survive that by getting a little bit more efficient and modernizing where we can. As far as priorities for how I would spend the reduced revenue, I'm always thinking long-term. So let's think about how this helps us for 20 years, not just how this helps us get through the next 6 months or a year. So we're gonna work on things that have a long-term payoff, because ultimately the way we can bring more revenue into county government without taxing individual people more is to have more people here paying taxes and more assessed value that can be taxed. That's how we're going to reduce the burden on taxpayers and provide the revenue we need to run county government.
All right. Well, lots of really amazing conversation happening today. And believe it or not, our time is up. We just, again, zoomed through all of that. That went by so quickly. But on behalf of the League of Women Voters of Vigo County and the Vigo County Public Library, I just want to thank each and every one of you. I know these last few months have been very long for a lot of different reasons, and running a campaign doesn't make it any shorter. So just taking the time out to speak to the viewers, to talk to the voters, actually, the people that are going to be electing you and putting you potentially into office, means the world. This is a chance during a pandemic that they would not normally get. So again, on behalf of the league and also the library, thank you so very much for spending your time with us on today. All right, well, welcome to the 2020 candidate forum put on by the Vigo County League of Women Voters and also the Vigo County Public Library. And we're so glad to have candidates running for Vigo County Council. We want to make sure that everybody knows that the league reached out to all the candidates in every single race that we've been doing in these forums, and the people that you see are the ones that responded in the affirmative. So we're just so glad that you all could join us for today to answer questions that were sent in from the community. So we are going to, at this time, give each of you a chance to take 2 minutes to introduce yourselves, talk about your platform, and just some of the things that are important to you. And we are going to go in alphabetical order. So that means that we will start with Tom Bogigian.
I'd like to start by introducing myself. It's Tom Bogigian. I do not expect people to pronounce the last name correctly, so Tom works just fine. I've been a resident here in Terre Haute for about 12 years now and spent the last 10 working for the county on the elections. Am not doing that now this year for obvious reasons. In addition to that, I am the vice president of the Vigo County Pachyderm Club. Oh, my apologies, I will be scolded. Vigo County Pachyderm Incorporated. I am also now, as of this week, the president of the Crystalline Woods Homeowners Association. Was not expecting that. And I've also chaired the Facilities Commission for Central Presbyterian Church for the past 8 years and have recently been ordained as an elder and begun assuming that responsibility as of this year. As far as the platform, I think if I were to try and summarize my platform in a sentence or two, it would be unleashing potential. And I hope to elaborate upon that as we continue through the forum. But I believe that Vigo County has a great reserve of untapped potential. And given the kind of economic and societal reset that's been kind of placed with the pandemic and the associated changes, I believe now is the time for us to unleash that potential. And it lies within all of us.
All right, thank you very much. And I kind of did it here, and you kind of took the cue, even without me explaining it for you. I've been working this way earlier today, and it's been working out pretty well. When I smile, that's kind of the cue to wrap it up, if you can, a little bit. And so when you see the big smile, I do agree with what you're saying, and I'm happy that you're saying, but it also means time cue. All right, if we can. Thank you. Next up, Stephen Neese. If you could take 2 minutes and just kind of explain who you are and your platform.
Yeah, my name's Steve Neese. I'm a lifetime sort of resident of Terre Haute, Vigo County. I was actually born here, but my dad was in the Air Force at the time. My parents are from here. He was actually stationed in Canada, was home on leave when I was born. And after he retired, we moved back here when I was young. Spent the rest of my life here until I went in the military. Spent a total of 12 years in the service. I'm a Gulf War veteran. And it's nice to see that you're an elder in your church. And I'm actually an ordained non-denominational minister. myself. And to sum up my platform, it's really, you know, a fresh start. I want to see the county really start to be proactive in finding businesses to come here, not really just waiting for them to say, hey, we're looking at your county. I think we should be out there looking for them, propositioning them, trying to get them to come in. And especially now with people, the mass exits out of New York and California, some of these other large states that they don't like their taxes and such. They're looking for places to relocate. Why not here in Indiana? Why not in Vigo County? So.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Neese. And finally, Maria Belzil-Thies.
Well, first off, I want to thank the League of Women Voters and the Vigo County Public Library for this opportunity. And during this challenging time in the election process, it's hard to get information out there. And so they've always done a wonderful job, and I truly appreciate it. As Rondrell said, I'm Marie Belzil-Thies. I'm the Democratic candidate, one of the Democratic candidates for Vigo County Council at large. Other than a little bit of time through college and about a year or so away, I've been a product of Vigo County and very proud of it. I'm a public school teacher going into my 25th year here in Vigo County in a variety of roles, from special education to counseling to social studies teacher. I have some experience with administration as well through internships and licensure. And I am the mom of 3 wonderful boys, ages, goodness, we're gonna have a 23-year-old very soon on down to my high school freshman. And, you know, just proud to be part of that. My husband's also from Terre Haute, and then we've been really active in the community in a variety of ways. I love participating in different community events, supporting different organizations that do a lot for Terre Haute and for Vigo County. And I think that's what really encouraged me to look at running. I recently did a program called Hoosier Women Forward, and met some incredible women from across the state, as well as leaders and resources. And I think through those connections, I saw some of the things that we have going very strong here in Vigo County, and other ways that we can bring some resources and ideas and try to move us forward, and maybe thinking a little bit more outside of the box on how we're doing things. So I look very forward to this race, and I've enjoyed meeting people along the way. So we'll get to the questions so we can talk more about what we think.
Right on, spot on. We're getting to the questions now. Thank you so much, and thank you all for your introductions. And as Marie just mentioned, we will be getting to our questions. Now, these are questions that have been submitted from the community, and they're questions just to get to know you all better, and also your platform, your stances, and how you may work as a member of the county council. And we're asking that you take 1 minute to respond to each of these questions, 1 minute at most. And again, I will smile. I may smile in general, depending on what you say, but the sustained smile means that your time is up. And we are going to start again at this time with Tom Bogigian with our first question. Then we'll just loop right through just as we just did and start with different people each time. But the first question is, when you get elected, what projects would you be pushing for to improve the county that are not in the Chamber of Commerce See You in Terre Haute 2025 community plan?
I think probably the first project that I would really want us to see is the development of a countywide 5-year strategic plan. And while I realize that it was the Chamber of Commerce that had the See You in Terre Haute, correct?
That is correct.
The county as a council, as a fiscal entity, is in need of a 5-year plan. And it's something that can be constructed easily. We simply go to the various offices that the county funds, and we ask them, where do you see yourself in 5 years? What are your priorities going to look like? This is a simple thing to do, and astounds me that it hasn't been really emphasized before for a body that is primarily fiscal in its nature. The individual agencies can respond in that regard, and then we as a council can say, okay, how can we best meet these needs moving forward? How do we properly steward taxpayer money to meet these goals? That would be the first thing that I think we should do.
All right, thank you very much, Tom. Moving now to that same question, and from Stephen Neese.
I agree with Tom, except I would be more apt to do a 1 year, 3 year, 5 year. When I was in management, I wanted my people to come up with a 30, 60, 90 day plan for implementing different things, or up to a year. And so I think with a 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, it's a little easier to work with as far as finding out what the immediate needs are and their immediate goals versus long-term goals.
All right, thank you very much, Stephen. And finally, Marie Belzil-Thies.
I think this is something that actually we're all somewhat in agreement on. I look at it as a budget, as a plan, just like you would in your own home. Budgets really kind of forecast what you want to do in the future. I also think we have to really address what we're experiencing right now, which is just the all the things, the questions around COVID and our budgets that we might be facing. It can impact what kinds of funds are coming into the county, as well as we don't know what maybe future costs and needs are going to be too. So I do think it is important to have those goals and where we want to see ourselves go. I don't know that should fall just specifically on the county. I think it's a teamwork, reach out to those department heads and really encouraging them, listening to them, and finding out where they want to see their resources go and what their goals would be for within the county. And part of that too is, I like to think of us not just working alone, like just the county or so on. We're all part of a team. So reaching out to those community agencies, you mentioned the chamber, but also, city government as well as other organizations, we all contribute to it together. And so, yeah, plans are good. We need to have one.
Fantastic. Fantastic. All right, this next question, we'll start with Stephen Neese to answer it. And it says, each Vigo County department creates an annual budget based on past expenditures and anticipated needs for the coming year. What standards should be set for departments that continually exceed their budget? And at what point, when a department head knows the expenditures will exceed their budgeted account, should a department head inform county officials that more money will be needed? I want to stick with just the first part of that question. What standards should be set for departments that continually exceed their budget? And we'll start with you, Stephen Neese.
That's a tough one. As far as setting a standard, man, that is a tough one. I'm not one for spending more than you have. I've never been that way. So as far as, I think everybody should stick to their budget as best they can. There are unforeseen, I'm sorry, my camera keeps going out like that.
You're fine.
There are always unforeseen expenses, overtime, such for emergencies and things. Man, that's a tough one to answer. I don't know what to say on that one, to tell you the truth. All right.
Well, thank you very much. Marie?
I think it really, a key part of that is communication. As a council member, you can't just be hearing about, obviously in the meetings you're getting information and request, but there should be a lot of communication with department heads trying to find out the needs and things that come on. And as Stephen mentioned, there are some circumstances that we can't plan for, but if it's a consistent process that we're seeing or a consistent department, you're going to have some tough conversations on where you can set priorities and working with others maybe to find out where they're at. But I think a big part of my priorities are to listen, learn, really dig into the issues and then apply it. And so if we're seeing that somebody is overspending or we're having issues, you've got to kind of research where it's going wrong. Are there better ways we can improve it and work with those department heads? Because it's they're not out there on their own. It should be a continued effort of people working together for the sake of our community.
All right. And finally, Tom, same question.
Well, the standard is no. You say no. Now, I should explain a little further on that. What I mean by this is, as an office, you can generally anticipate your needs moving forward. For one fiscal year to the next, your costs typically do not increase unless you have a severe shortfall in revenues or you are suddenly given an unfunded mandate or unfunded requirements. I'm reminded of the city's sewer treatment plant as a notable example where that was an unfunded mandate. Those you can predict ahead of time, particularly if you have good lines of communication with your state and your federal representatives in government. They will tell you ahead of time that either the state or the feds are looking to move certain responsibilities to local levels. You'll see this particularly with the reorganization of incarceration and the states saying, hey, you're going to start picking up some more inmates for low-level felonies are going to be housed in the jails instead of the state prisons. You plan for those ahead of time, and you would expect your department heads to hold to those plans, to keep them abreast as you inform them and go forward.
All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate the response there, Tom. All right, we're moving on to the next question, and this time we'll start with Marie.
Okay.
And it is, what are your thoughts on merging the city and county governments? What advantages or disadvantages do you think this could have?
Hey, I had a feeling that one would be coming along. I've been paying attention to a lot of different questions and other things. I don't know that we're, there. I think there's a lot of things I've already talked about working together as a team for our community. The city's not just the city and the county's not just the county. We're all, together. But at the same time, I think we have different needs. I think the county is very strong fiscally right now. I have to give a shout out to our previous county council and commissioners and those who've worked hard on that. But there are some ways I think that we really could collaborate and possibly work on some of those services, because you don't want to have overspending if it's something where we could pull things together. I think we all need to advocate for our community. It can't just be one or the other. Getting new businesses, getting new resources and ideas for recreation, all those different things, that should be something we should be working on together. And you have to be electing people who want to be team players and listen to each other and work with each other, but at the same time hold firm for what's right for the county as well. So I don't think we're there yet, but I think there's definitely some ways we can be more resourceful.
All right. Thank you very much, Marie. And Tom, same question for you.
I am not a big fan of the idea of Unigov. I think that you have simply different needs throughout the county. Areas such as Riley, Black Hawk, you go up by, even where I am, up in Crystalline Woods, up here in Fayette near New Goshen, those problems, those conditions up there are going to be vastly different than they would be at, say, 12 Points. Or if you go to Edgewood, Phoenix Hills. or out by the airport. If you're trying to create some sort of universal template to fit all of those vastly different areas, you're not going to have the tailored responses to the issues that you need. Now, the three of us as candidates are running for council members at large. We do represent the entirety of Vigo County. And I think that we should be approaching this in the mindset of having to represent the entirety of the county. We need to tailor our answers, our responses to the entirety of the county specifically. And I don't believe that a unigov is the way to go about that.
All right. Thank you very much, Tom. And finally, to answer that same question, Steve.
Yeah, I'm not for joining together the county and the city as a whole. Last year, the city and the county talked about joining certain departments like the Parks Department and such. I don't have a problem with that. But like Tom was saying, there's a big difference between Terre Haute and some of the more rural areas. And as a representative of the county as a whole, you can't apply one standard. I wouldn't want to make some of this the more rural areas feel that they're left out if it's just one government that's basically focused in Terre Haute. As he was saying, if you're out in the Black Hawk area or Riley, their needs are completely different from Terre Haute, and so that's where I stand on that.
All right. Thank you very much for those responses. I believe we have time for one more. I'm looking at, yes, okay. One more question from you all today. And thank you so much. This time has just flown by. It really has. Lots of interesting things being discussed today. One more question, and this time we'll start with Tom. And that question is, how could you positively transform, quote, the way things have always been done, end quote, to fit the needs of the new generation? And I hope you kind of understand where I'm coming from as that question was written there, quote, the way things have always been done.
I think perhaps the best way to sum that up is the anecdotal expression of banging your head against a wall and wondering why you have a headache. To be transforming these things, it's not necessary. You don't have to try and do a radically different approach to things. You simply need to pause, catch your breath, stop banging your head against the wall, and look instead to what the goal is and the best way to get there. I kind of feel constrained with the 1 minute, I must admit, but
I didn't make the rules. I'm sorry.
I understand. No. This is not.
And actually, that's I just got the cue that's it for that question. So thank you so much, Tom. I appreciate your response to that. And now we'll move on to Steve.
Yeah, I've always been a big advocate for use of social media, the use of computer technology. For me, the old school way of just posting things inside of a government building or putting something in a newspaper ad. A lot of people have gone to digital. I'm sure you know, Rondrell, that digital use has take a look at Sony. Digital use of a lot of things has taken over. So a lot of people access things through their computer. We're doing this now because of COVID, but I think this is a great way to communicate to the public and to hold meetings. I really would like to see more use of social media and computer-driven technology.
Thank you very much. Anne Marie.
I agree. We can use those resources definitely to hear from people. And that's something I've been saying all along because I consider myself to be an active part of the community. I'm engaged in my work. I see a wide array of the needs and ideas of our community just through my students at school and the families that I interact with. But I think it's important that we do try to find ways to reach out and hear from people. And that doesn't mean just them coming to us. I'm still a firm believer you can use social media and all those things, but I still believe those interactions, when we can have a little bit more person-to-person interactions, attending organizations, events, those kinds of things, that's when people are very comfortable about talking about the needs and what they want to see in our community. And I think being approachable, gathering that information, thinking outside of the box. I think we've got some strengths, but we really need to try to do things in a different way and reach out outside of our community for ideas as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Well, you all, thank you so much for joining us on today on behalf of the League of Women Voters and the Vigo County Public Library. We just can't tell you how much we appreciate you taking your time this morning to come and speak with us. And I think the point has been made, especially with that last question. This is why what we're doing today is so important. We're in the middle of a pandemic, and so we can't necessarily be all together at once. So using these platforms to be able to reach out to the voters who may not be able to see you is very, very important. And so we really appreciate you all stopping by. Thank you so much.